All right, we're live. Welcome everybody to this Thursday night's edition of the Live Well here at Fish North Georgia. We're so glad you're taking your time to be with us tonight. And if you're watching at a later date, we love you too. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Click that notification bell so any content you'll be notified of it. If you're watching on all of the other stuff, I think we got Facebook group page, TikToks, all that. Hey, make sure you give us a like, and we sure do appreciate it. You don't know how much it helps the channel. So we got a great show for you guys tonight. All right, we have got the winner of last week's BFL on Lake Lanier. Brooks Anderson is in the house, and we're going to talk to this young man. He's actually been on the show before. It's been a few months ago. You did it with your college team.
Yes, sir.
So now he's branching out on his own, and we're going to try to see what kind of information we can get out of him about how we might be able to put 23 pounds of spotted bass. Was it all spots?
Yes, sir.
Remember, you got kids say, "Sir, man, you making me feel old." He's a polite kid, so like that. Look at him. He don't know what to think with me behind the mic tonight. Anyway, let's take care of some business and all our fine sponsors. Let's start off with Opson Fluoro. Guys, again, Highland Reservoir Lakes, clear water. That fluoro, especially on your spinning rods, plays a big part in your leader game. And Opson USA has got a new brand out. It's coming to stores in April. But right now, you can still go online and order it. Go to optionusa.com, type in FNG, and you get 20% off. And if you hang around for old man here, his question of the week, Mr. Thornton, you can win $50 off at optionusa.com. So we want to thank Opson. Next, Trent Palmer and the guys at Sonar Pros. Hey, listen, I bet you I heard a rumor today. Who did the electronics in your boat?
Mr. Trent did.
Mr. Trent. If you want it done right, if you want the absolute perfect install, take it to the guys at Sonar Pros. By appointment only. Pull that back up real quick for a second. I got to read that phone number there. 770-530-4505. Tell Trent the guys at Fish North Georgia steered you his way. And then we've got Kevin Underwood and Lip Sticker Fishing. Guys, just about every day, we see the fish that he's posting up. The guy can catch fish, and he actually finished third behind you in this tournament. So he's one of those guys that he's not afraid to jump in there with the boys and fish a tournament. I got all the respect in the world from that. Book a trip. I've been out with him. He'll teach you the sonar game. He'll teach you that deep water game, whatever you want to do. Kevin is the guy. So www.lipstickerfishing.com, or you can find him on Facebook. Check him out there. And so next we've got Evolve Rod Sleeves. And Kevin, so that it doesn't sound like it's just coming from me, you actually own some of these now.
22 of them.
22 of them. Man dropped a pretty penny, but what do you think about them?
Great. They protect your rods. They'll float.
Got the rod tip.
You got a rod tip, and they hook onto your reel handle so they won't fly off.
That's right. And I'm telling you what, the best rod sleeve I've ever messed with. So go to evolvefishing.com and check them guys out right there. Then we've got Nathan Skinner and the guys over at Festive Water Paddle Sports off of Highway 369 going towards Lake Lanier. If you're in the kayak game or the paddle sport game, this is a shot for you. They can rig your kayak if you're a fishing guy like we are. You ever been in a kayak?
I couldn't get out of it.
I don't know. I've only done it once. You fish out of a kayak?
I fished one kayak tournament.
Okay, well, there you go. So he's got some experience. So you know how important it is for it to be set up and everything like that. Festive Water Paddle Sports, www.festivewaters.com. And then we got, who's next? It's Turner Tire. I think I'm on that. You look at the sign right behind me. Turner Tire up here in Jasper, Georgia, guys, a family-owned business. Brock Turner, he's an angler just like us. They will treat you right. Everything is perfect up there. It's where I'm going to go from here on out to get all my tires. 706-253-3339. Check those guys out. I'm telling you, they'll do a good job for you. And, of course, my favorite of all the sponsors, Etowah Mead, Beer, and Wine. I got it right this week. Tonight, I am drinking the Little Buzzer, an India Pale Ale with honey. So the cool thing about mead, guys, is, hey, listen, if you're watching us and you don't live in the Dahlonega area, they can ship mead to you. I'm telling you, we haven't had a bad one yet, have we?
Not one.
Not one. Everything is absolutely perfect. If you're in the Dahlonega area, go hang out with them. I know they do trivia on Thursday nights. You know, real cool little bar scene right there, just north on Highway 9 of Dahlonega, Georgia. So tell Blair and the guys we sent you there. And I'm telling you, you'll enjoy everything they got. My personal favorite, the Happy Camper. So strong they can't put it in the can. But it is absolutely amazing. So check them guys out. All right, let's look in the comment section before we get started tonight. Got a lot of guys, Fish Hawk, Luke Turner, Jason Jones. Man, for a second, I thought you had too much meat and forgot the time. Now, listen, I was telling a dirty joke for on there. He had to wait. So, Clint Bartlett, all you guys, listen. Dane Hunter, did you ask Tim about the story? Yes, I did, sir. Those of you who don't know, Dane and Tim are former police officers, and we get all the colorful behind-the-scene recollections of some of their
We
more
talked about
memorable.
it.
We
Off
talked
camera.
about it.
Off camera.
Off camera. We ain't going to do that on camera. So, guys, listen, if you got any questions for this young man, definitely put them in the comment sections, and I will definitely get it. But I remember Saturday night, I was up here at the shop pretty late. I know a lot of people went to the Noe show and all that, but I was curious as to what was going on Lake Lanier, as most people around here do. And then I see this name at the front, and I'm like, I remembered you coming up, but I'd never met you before. And I'm like, all right, here's this young kid, 23, what was it, 23.5 or
23-3.
23.3 of spotted bass. So first off, I want you to tell everybody just how it feels to win a BFL. Got the is a trophy in the shop? Pull that trophy, hold that trophy up right there. Let everybody see it. I love it when you guys bring your trophies up right there. Look at that right there. Says champion on it. So Lake Lanier. So I want to know what it felt like first when you realized I just won the BFL.
It was definitely a crazy day and a crazy experience to win that tournament.
Yeah.
But kind of how the day unfolded, it still didn't even feel real after the tournament, honestly. And it took a couple of days for it to kind of really settle in for me, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, dude, you beat some hammers.
Yes.
I mean, there's some sticks fished that tournament this weekend.
Absolutely.
I know Alex Prince finished second, and our buddy Kevin with Lipsticker, he took third. Did you have a feeling going in, though? Did you know you had 23 pounds? Or would you pretty close?
I knew I had 22 some change and probably 23 when I made the final call of the day.
Yeah.
But I didn't know for sure if they were actually going to go 23. But it's my biggest bag of spots in the tournament to date.
See, that's what's crazy about Lanier is you can have 20-plus pounds, and, hell, you might not get a check. You might not get a check with all the hammers in the way that lake fishes.
Happened a lot this year to me.
I mean,
it's
so
crazy.
So driving back to the boat ramp, what was going through your mind?
Well, I definitely first and foremost wanted to give myself enough time to get back and kind of take it easy with the wind and everything. But it was definitely a lot of emotions, and I had about 45 minutes left to fish, and I had a 330 in my bag. And just from fishing the Scott Barnes tournaments and everything around here, if you have a 3-pounder in your bag in one of these tournaments, it's going to bite you. And I managed to call that one out with I think it was a 450 or 460 kind of towards the end. That's when I was like, all right, I maybe potentially have a shot.
When you got that kicker right there. That's awesome.
Still not for sure though, but
okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take care of some business right here for you, Jason Jones. I told the kid he was gonna have to do it tonight, so I want you to look in that camera right there, give the biggest grin you can, and say yum yum.
Yum yum.
There you go. We took care of it. I actually told him what it meant, and one of these days I'm gonna make a video of all my guests saying yum yum for you guys that are in the know. Tyler Minix is already drinking tonight. What's the most effective method for fishing the helicopter lure? Good old Tyler's not. Tyler, you're gonna see some crazy questions from him tonight. Pull up my buddy Rob Robleski right there. Good dude right there. Winning a local BFL is extremely hard and a big accomplishment. Congrats, dude. So he fishes the NPFL and all that. He's pretty good stick.
Was he on the show?
He was,
I remember watching that.
He's a Florida boy. He had to move up here to figure out what deep really is. In Florida, 8 foot's deep. It was a big learning curve.
Yeah, he's talking about chatterbait and stuff, I think.
He is. Yeah, he likes those chatterbaits. Audio off for everyone else. FNG dubbed. Not that I'm aware of, Scratch. Apparently everybody is listening to me, so I don't know. Maybe
we did a mic check earlier, and everybody.
We did a mic check, and the buttons are on. Jason Jones said you nailed the yum yum right there. You nailed it. So good, perfect right there. So, okay, so let's talk about going into the tournament. How much pre-fishing did you actually do?
So with being in college and everything, and classes and all that crazy.
And you go to a manual.
Yes, sir. I
go to manual.
So I actually only had that Friday to practice, and I got out there pretty early and got off about 4:30. So just typical pre-fishing day.
How'd your practice go?
It went pretty good. Really slow in the morning. I wasn't really dialed in my electronics and some of my casting. It wasn't. I kind of know when I'm fluid and things are clicking, and it definitely took me till probably about 10:30, 11 before I started getting a couple bites and starting to get a couple pieces together for sure.
So did you establish a pattern though on that Friday that you thought you could go into Saturday with?
See, that's the catch. On Friday, we kind of found a good pattern. And I was like, this is going to be good. And then I started checking the weather, and I see these crazy winds and kind of being out there on the main lake and Lanier South, and it's pretty bad. And when that wind kicks up, it's real open. So that was kind of a voice in the back of my head, like, all right, this could go pretty bad pretty quick. So
Rob wanted to let everybody know he had over 20 pounds on Notley Sunday throwing the jackhammer. So
good job, Rob.
Huh?
Good job, Rob.
Shit. Hell, I have months I don't catch 20 pounds. So there you go. But he's a Florida boy. He grew up on Okeechobee. So good looking kid, though. Well, I'll tell him that. So anyway, all right. So what did you find in practice Friday that, made you think? Were you fishing deep? Were you fishing shallow? What was it?
So I kind of thought I was going to fish more shallow in this event, but as y'all know, we had a lot of rain that week, and it kind of didn't muddy up water, but it gave this fish a lot more area to kind of move into.
Yeah.
So I went out the week before and found, I think we caught 21 pounds pretty quick, kind of fishing, not the bank, but just around shallower, staging fish. And I got there and the lake almost seemed like a foot or two over full pool. So I was kind of trying to force that for a little bit. And then I actually kind of stepped out into some of that timber, some of those ditches, those more traditional kind of pre-spawn areas, and got on a pretty good bite. So
have you noticed, and we'll get to the actual tournament Saturday, but have you noticed this year, at least from people coming in the store, seeing some of the results, a lot of the tournaments this year on Lake Lanier were one shallow, a lot more than normal. And like that ditch bite didn't really kick in like it normally does.
Yeah. For me, the ditch fishing, it's good to do on guide trips and fun fishing and all that. You catch a lot of fish. You can get them under the boat. It's a lot of fun. You catch a lot really quickly.
Yeah.
But from a tournament perspective, getting some of those 4-pound class fish, it's a lot harder to do that in those ditches. Yeah. I'm sure that's something that you've probably ran into or heard about.
Well, that's what I've heard. I've heard that a lot of fish in the ditches, but the tournament winning fish were not there this winter, at least as consistent like they were. So did you try any of that on Friday?
I did.
You did. And that's where you figured it out, kind of they're not there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we wake up, let's jump Saturday morning. And guys, listen, if you got any specific questions for him, technique and all, I asked him what was off limits. He said nothing's off limits. So if you got the questions you want to know, we'll jump on it. David Martin's got one right here. Good one for you, Brooks. What do you consider shallow? I'm in Middle Georgia, and I feel like my shallow and deep are completely different. And I will say this, once you get above Atlanta, it's a different game, shallow and deep.
Absolutely.
So in North Georgia, what would you consider shallow?
My definition of shallow on Lanier and Hartwell lakes around here is going to be about 20 and less, primarily 15 and less. But anywhere 20 and less, like no timber, anything like that, that's kind of the shallow deal for me.
That would be what I would say. Now, you're a flatlander. You fish Sinclair and Oconee and all them a lot are used to. Now, what is deep and shallow on those lakes?
10 feet or less.
10 feet or less is what you consider
for my
shallow.
shallow, yes.
For your shallow. Now, when you go shallow, how do you approach it as far? Were you cranking when you were trying to get that pattern? Were you cranking and stuff, or throwing jigs, or what were you doing?
So I throw crankbaits a lot throughout the winter on Lanier. It's probably one of the best baits to get like a true giant on some of these winter days.
I agree.
Just one of those reaction bite deals, and they don't have much time to think about it. But
yes,
in a tournament, it's kind of hard for me to throw a hard bait in the winter, just in a tournament scenario. So I kind of lean towards like a shaky head or a Nico rig, something I can kind of really slow down with. Yeah. And if I feel like there's an area that they should be, I don't want to say maximize it, but not blow past them or something. But on the other side of the hand, if you do have a really windy day and you can't set up on those fish, that crankbait can be a really key player as well.
You know what blinker fish are?
Oh, well, I listen to that one.
You listen to Driscoll. That's what when he said Nico.
We caught a few of them.
Did you?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask you how, you did listen to that? And this kind of goes into prepping for a tournament. When Driscoll was on here, a lot of people said, boy, he gave a lot of juice. A lot of stuff. Just for curiosity, for my curiosity's sakes, did you pull anything off that podcast that you thought maybe I could use?
Actually,
or were you more familiar with what he was doing? You already did stuff like that.
I definitely do that fishing a lot, and something I'm really comfortable with. But it always amazed me. Like you'll sometimes hear someone talk about a bait, or say like the bent worm or the
bent worm. Yeah, I was like, what the hell's a bent worm?
Or the Nico rig, and you're like, maybe I should put that on again or something. But it's a traditional bait in the pre-spawn that's really effective out here for sure.
Bent worm right there. So Stephen Bardet, I seen Mr. Bardet. He came up here to visit today. Good to see you. 5 foot or less is what he considers shallow. He's an Allatoona guy. So, I mean, hell, what's the deepest part of Allatoona?
Probably about 140 feet down by the dam.
Okay, on average, around the banks. And if you go up Stamp Creek and all that, it don't get too deep in some of them creeks. 20 foot?
Oh, it gets deeper than that.
Is it?
Creeks, yeah.
Even when it's down in the winter?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it is mud, so that's like
Depends
that.
how far you're going up, too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You ever fished Allatoona?
I
mean, you live in Marietta.
I haven't fished it. I mean, I live really close to it, but I tend to spend my time on Lanier. But from all my friends and everyone that's talked about it, it sounds like it's really on the come up in the past 2 years.
It is. Like I said, 35 plus to win the Noe tournament.
That's
It's changing
ways.
for sure.
Listen, it wasn't but a few years ago.
Bardet got second. Didn't
Bardet got second. I was pulling for him. He got second. I'm not going to say he let me down or nothing like that, but I was pulling for him. But it used to, yeah, you could go up there with 10 pounds. He's cutting a check.
Bad.
That's going to change out there. Connor Hewitt, about 40 foot in Stamp Creek right there. Redbird.
That's
Okay.
a college nickname.
That's
for one of my
Redbird.
guys. Yep.
So do you know DA right there?
Yeah, that's my buddy Dylan. He's my roommate.
Oh, I bet y'all got some stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We got a few.
So there's a reason. There's a reason he put that question out right there. What's your go-to scent for spotted bass?
That's actually something he's dabbling into.
Yeah.
With spots, we watch a lot of them kind of turn off dates and things like that. So we've been kind of brainstorming potential ways to get some of these fish to commit. But
you don't use a scent at all?
I don't, but maybe something we try to incorporate and see if it potentially does make a difference. But
the biggest question I have in all of fishing is why the hell fish like garlic? Why people put garlic scent on their bait? And I'm being 100% serious. Like it sounds like a joke, but there was a time somewhere that some guy said, "Let's try garlic." So are y'all dabbling into that kind of stuff, or more kind of like the bait fuel stuff?
kind of that kind of application, like the bait fuel and some of that maybe like max scent stuff. And,
Yeah.
But
Well, I tell you what, what's his name? Dylan?
Mm-hmm.
Dylan, if you get it down, give me some. I'll sell it at the shop for you. Alex, let's see. They turned in some nice fish at the Noe tournament. Yes, they did. Here's a question. Derek O right there at the bottom. It was. I remember I was telling you it was an 8-pound largemouth caught, and yeah, that's impressive. Allatoona always puts out good largemouth this time of year. You see it. There's always somebody got a big one. Are you looking for specific contours, structure, or cover when choosing where to fish shallow?
Definitely, it's going to be contour based, and the biggest asset to me has been running the Lake Master chip from Humminbird. I have 2 Lowrances on my boat, but it just seems like that Lake Master, you can really see those contours a little bit better, and the spots almost like jump out at you, especially this time of year when we're looking for staging fish. Those secondary points and some of those sneakier little channel swings really are highlighted on that mapping.
That makes sense. You remember what Tim? You remember what Bill Payne said last week? That he, even with forward-facing sonar, Bill Payne said the biggest advancement he thinks in all the electronics is the mapping.
Definitely
is the mapping, and he probably uses that more than anything.
Definitely.
River rat is okay. What crankbait do you like to throw on Lanier?
primarily a rock crawler.
50 or 55?
55.
You like the 55? Better get a little deeper.
Mhm.
All right, now let me ask you this, and we're going to get to the tournament. This is just the way this show goes. Hell, we follow. We follow.
We'll
where
make
they go.
it sooner or later.
Yeah, it might be the last 20 minutes, but we're going to get to the tournament. Are you a big proponent on red and oranges this time of year?
Yes and no. I think there's definitely a time and place for red. It's no secret that pre-spawn, there's something about that red that just triggers fish, and I definitely will throw it this time of year. But I kind of lean towards some of those more translucent colors, those slicker days, stuff like that. But I definitely do like the bright reds and stuff in that end of February, even into March.
Yeah. Had a guy come in the shop the other day. He said he caught, and he was just fun fishing. He guessed he caught probably 18, 19 pounds, but he was throwing the rock crawler, and I don't remember the exact model number, but it was a chartreuse on the side with the green pumpkin across the top.
Probably spring crawl.
That might be it. It might be the spring crawl. He said they were just chowing down, and I know that a lot of people in Allatoona like to throw that color. There's your Allatoona boys out there. Scratch fishing. Right here. Where'd you catch them? North or south? In the wind, main lake or creeks?
So we caught them on the south end, main lake and creeks, and towards the end of the day, I kind of did brave that wind and get back offshore in some of those areas and was able to make 2 calls out there. So we did a little bit of everything, but it was primarily the south end for sure.
Okay, there you go. Let's see. Rob says Lake Master is the best, and I don't. I don't stunt? Am I pronouncing that right? I have to be careful because sometimes people put names and it ends up being something dirty, and I read it. They're playing tricks on me. Shout out to Brooks's YouTube to help me catch bass this winter. There you go, dude.
Yes,
see, that's awesome right there. Brooks trying to film me some videos. Marley Man Fishing. Do we know him?
Yeah, I met him on Instagram a couple months ago. We're gonna do some pretty cool stuff in the warmer months with some videos for sure.
Where's Marley Man from?
He's around Lanier. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
I'm not like real close to them yet, but looking to do some pretty cool stuff in the
Dang,
future.
Marley Man, I don't know you. We need to know you there. If you're a Lanier boy, we definitely got to do that.
Come by the shop.
Come by the shop. I want to meet Marley. Marley Man. I want to make sure I say that right. Bassing in the South. Was he the one who didn't get in on the side pot in the Onum tournament and would have won it?
No, sir. I got in the side pot and we made a little bit from that. I think we ended up getting 6th in that tournament.
That's on Hartwell, right?
Yes, sir.
How was that experience?
That's a really cool tournament. Matt Robertson, he's a character in itself.
He is.
His
man needs a haircut, but he is a character.
His tournament was no different. It was really cool, and I'm really glad I fished the first one.
I got you. Let's see. Dennis Rice. You guys keep the questions coming. You're making my job easy.
Mm-hmm.
What worm are you throwing on the shaky head and Nico rig?
Yeah, we're gonna kind of shy away. It's a stick bait, but if you really want,
you can just get
Remember,
get
sugar-free.
Paint with the broadest of brushes.
it's a stick bait. But if you really want the juice, either check out my fish tips or go ahead and book a trip with me, and we can get into colors.
Get the specific and colors. That's
There you go.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you what I tell the guys. Every guest that comes in here, I every one of them, they all tell you the same. I said, "What's off limits?" And sometimes you have to appreciate the fact that they don't want to give you this specific color. We're not going to say they're gatekeeping or anything like that. That's a word I learned. I didn't even know that was a word. Somebody called us a gatekeeper on TikTok, and I didn't know what the hell that was. But stick bait, kind of, I get that. Now, what was it that Driscoll said? He liked the fluke stick. Ain't that right?
That's a really good one for sure.
He liked. Well, you know what though? I went out in my electric tournament and threw that damn thing, and I didn't get bit at all. I guess I don't have Driscoll's skills or nothing. I tried. You throw a Nico?
I throw a Nico.
You do good with a Nico?
Yes, I do.
Do you prefer a Nico over a wacky? I feel like
I
with the
throw
wacky,
about 50-50 on that.
see, I feel like I can throw a wacky rig and catch fish all day long. Adding that nail weight just messes it up.
It depends what kind of cover you're fishing too.
We'll drop some juice.
Well, I throw the Nico in a heavy cover,
Yeah.
and then the wacky worm I'm throwing up under docks around stuff that's sticking out real well that you can see.
Why does that make a difference? The hook's still exposed. You just don't get hooked.
I just don't get hooked as bad. Well, on my wacky, it's got a 2-prong weed protector, hook protector.
Oh, you throw that. Yeah.
I throw that one. I don't throw a plain hook.
You don't throw, do you throw a wacky?
Here and there, I'm more of a Nico guy.
Okay, your Nico. What you just heard what he said.
Mm-hmm.
He throws it more heavy cover, wacky, less cover.
So I tend to lean towards the Nico more times than not, just to kind of be a little more efficient in tournaments per se, because it falls a little bit faster.
It does do
and,
that.
It does fall
It
fast.
does do
and
that.
I'm sure I'm losing some bites that I probably would get on a wacky if I was out there fun fishing or something, but just for like a raw efficiency standpoint, definitely just being able to see those fish and kind of just get it to them.
That makes sense because I'm that idiot that'll throw a weightless wacky over a 40-foot brush pile and sit
You
there.
got to wait 40 seconds for it.
But I do. But I'm willing to do that. But I hate throwing jerk baits when it's cold. I'm just, my brain hemispheres are all messed up.
I'm not a jerk bait guy.
I hate jerk baits. I know they catch fish. Pull up that one out there. Maddie Light. Who's Maddie Light? They know you. All right, Red, because they're calling you by Red.
Yeah, that's one of my. He graduated this past December. That's another one of my college buddies.
Okay. Are you still running and gunning like in brush pile season, or is this more time with the trolling motor in the water dissecting an area?
You can do a little bit of both now, but for me, it's spending a lot of time in those like high percentage areas where I think those fish are moving into. So I'll definitely slow down more so this time of year than if it was a warmer month where you run around like crazy.
I got you. I saw, now you don't have to go up, but Clint did say that your YouTube channel. Yeah. Hey, Danny and the boys, Brooks' channel is really good. Always enjoy his stuff.
Appreciate that.
And listen, that's how I praise, because there's some really bad videos on YouTube.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the thing about YouTube is With a TikTok, you got 3 seconds to catch their attention before they swipe up. With a YouTube video, you got 30 seconds to capture the attention. And then anybody that looks at analytics, that's when it drops off. So if you're catching people and they're watching all your content and all that, that's really good. That means you're doing it just right. Connor Hewitt. Hey, listen, guys, you keep it coming. This is great. I love this. What are some top baits and areas you are targeting this time of year for these standing bass that are finicky? I started to say finicky, like finicky bass right now.
Finicky bass.
Are they really finicky this time of year?
They can be, definitely. I try to lean towards finding productive areas where if I go a long time without getting bit, I'll kind of move around and see when those fish are actually like in a feeding mood. But some baits I would probably use out on Lanier right now would be a shaky head, Nico rig, the Mickey, little Kitech, just things like that.
So this is a question for me. When you pull up to a spot, are you going to crank it first, go with the Nico, and what's your first bait you're throwing, or what technique are you throwing first?
I'm gonna throw a worm style bait, probably more than likely.
You like the worms,
unless I see a lot of fish kind of suspended in the water column. Then I'm gonna opt for a bait to kind of keep it above their head.
Okay, so I'm assuming you're a forward-facing sonar guy.
Yes, sir.
How has that changed your approach to fishing?
It's changed a lot, and the forward-facing sonar, it gets a bad rap, and that's a huge rabbit hole.
It is,
and we won't go down it right now. But I've fished my whole life without it, and being able to use it has been really cool to see how these fish react to your baits. And also, the biggest thing I think it does, it just eliminates the dead time where your bait's not in front of the fish.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't throw too much when I don't see them, but I kind of also have that background of fishing my whole life where I'm like, okay, these fish should be in this area. This is where I can look for it. See, that's the biggest thing with me with all these young anglers. I often wonder if you took the forward-facing sonar away, would they be able to fish? But I had a pretty good conversation with your father earlier today, and he was telling me, you've been fishing tournaments since you were like 10? So, and you did not have it all through high school. You only got that in college, which you're a senior, right? Yes, sir.
So basically last 4 years. So you at least developed the knowledge beforehand of the fish should be here this time of year and doing that. I think a lot of kids are missing that. You at least have that.
There's a lot of young guys that can simply put it in the water and just go down and catch them just with the forward facing. I'm personally not one of those guys yet, and I kind of have to have like almost a reasoning behind the spot, like, hey, I need to stop at this point. They should be somewhere in this area, and then I'll kind of branch off from there.
Yeah, but I like the fact that
we spoke before though about if they took the forward facing sonar from these young guys, took it away from them, how well would they do?
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
and that was kind of my thinking with all these young kids. But like at least with him, he's got 10. You're 22. You had it 4 years. So I mean, you had 8 years of tournament experience without it, all through high school.
Right.
And so that I think.
And now these high school boys have it. A lot of them.
A lot of them have it, and a lot of them have grown up with it. Mm-hmm. So that was always our big question: is like if they, and don't get me wrong, there's some people that were just born able to fish. They just God graced them. This guy's going to be able to fish, catch fish everywhere. But a lot of them can't. Mm-hmm. And so we often wonder how bad they would fall back if they took it away. But luckily with you, like I said, I talked to your father, and he was like, because we had that conversation.
Right.
And he's like, he didn't get it till college. And so I think that's pretty cool that he at least knows, like if they took it away and they banned it tomorrow, he'd still be able to fish. How many of them couldn't? So that's a rabbit hole.
That's right.
That we could spend 8 hours and might have, Uncle Randy calling us and fussing at us, and we don't want to do that. I see a lot of questions. Is that the next one, or did we miss some?
Let's try this one.
Let's pull up Andy Anderson. How instrumental was Greg Kirkman on your fishing career? So number one, who is Greg Kirkman, and how instrumental was he?
Yeah, so that's my dad. And
Andy, dadgummit, I didn't even know. Yeah. I told you I'd call you Bud for about a year and a half because I can't remember anybody's name.
But Greg Kirkman, I actually grew up fishing Callaway Gardens down there in Pine Mountain, Georgia.
Really? I lived in LaGrange for a while.
Sorry.
I used to go to Callaway Gardens.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So my dad actually got us a guide trip, and I couldn't even tell you how young I was. And me and Greg kind of just hit it off, and it almost became kind of like a mentoring thing where if he had an open weekend or something, he'd invite me and be like, hey, let's go fishing. And he taught me a lot of just the basics of fishing, like setting the hook, just throwing, and all like the kind of fundamentals behind it. Mm-hmm. And we fished for a number of years, and that really gave me just the confident the background almost to get my skill set before I went to.
So you had a good mentor.
Yeah, it was. I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without him for sure.
And that's another point, Kevin. A lot of these kids don't have mentors like that.
No, not anymore.
They get to high school, they just, hey, I want to fish. Sometimes they're blessed to be able to buy a boat, get the stuff, get out there and fish. But to be able to grow up with somebody teaching you the basics.
Yeah, and it's really a blessing because my dad, he personally doesn't fish. He's never fished, but all these high school tournaments and growing up, I'd be the one to kind of be like, all right, let's go here. I'd always be on the trolling motor. So like I kind of naturally taught myself with that fundamentals, like, all right, this is maybe how it's done. Then over the years, it's just kind of been accumulating.
Yeah, but I can tell you what, just in the brief conversation I had, and I mentioned it to you before, Andy, I was talking to how in it your dad is, even if he ain't an angler. He is that man is in it. And so not only did you have a mentor to teach you, but you got a good support system with your dad.
Absolutely.
You're blessed.
Extremely.
And I'm just trying to get him some brownie points, Andy, like that. But you really are. You know what I'm saying? So, and again, that's a lot of kids this day and age don't have that. So.
No, I think today's age, most of the parents, dual parents, are working, so they don't have the time, the income level to get out and fish. If you don't have the backing on that, it's really tough.
It is tough.
So, he's very fortunate to have somebody like that that could take him.
And, there's always on some of these high schools, kids that want to do it, don't have the boat and all that. I wish there was a way we could get around that where more kids could do it.
Swindell says all the time, G-Man, you got to want to.
Yeah, you got to want to. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yep.
Confucius says.
Confucius.
That says it. Scratch fishing.
Yeah, scratch.
How did your co-angler do in the tournament? Did you scope all your fish? Now I want to let's before you get into this, because Mr. Randy Blockett put out a video day before yesterday where a lot of co-anglers in whatever tournament he was in are not showing up because they don't want to get stuck out with a forward-facing sonar guy.
All right. I have a pretty cool twist to this.
Okay, go ahead.
Actually, so I got the text from my co-angler, and it was actually someone that I fished against in my Georgia Bass Trail in high school.
Yeah.
So off the rip, I knew it was like, okay, the chemistry in the boat is going to be good. I know this guy, so it made it real relaxed. And from the start, I told him, I was like, hey, I am going to have to be offshore live scoping for a portion of the day, but I'm also going to go to the bank and do some more traditional stuff, and you'll have plenty of time to have your shots at some fish.
Yeah.
And he weighed in 4 fish and had 5 or 6 other really good bites when we did go shallow. But I think it was really important to just kind of let him know, like, hey, I am going to have to go do this thing for a little bit, but there will definitely be windows where you can take advantage of the location we're at for his sake of the tournament.
Yeah. And how did he receive that?
He was honest with me, and we worked it out, and it was a lot of fun. And he trusted me, and he was like, hey, I understand you got to go do this thing to potentially have a shot to win the tournament. But at the same time, I'm not the guy that if I am live scoping all day, I wouldn't feel comfortable just throwing a guy back there and being like, throw wherever you want. I'm going to at least try to plan my day accordingly to give him some opportunities to have a shot, because he paid to be there, and it wouldn't be just fair just stick him back there and kind of.
Oh no, I agree. I agree, and that's one of the big things. At least you guys, number one, you talked beforehand. And kind of come up with a plan and all that. And you did give him some green water to fish, and opportunities. There are those guys out there that don't.
How much did you share with him before the tournament about what to bring, what to throw?
I gave him the rundown. I said, we're going to start in some ditches and some offshore areas, and then what kind of moose shall look for some bigger bites. And then I told him I was going to transition back into some of those areas and just kind of flip-flop in between throughout the whole day. And
you fished with some guys that, when you were a co-angler, I would assume that didn't give you any information.
Yeah, for sure. It's the co-angling thing. It's a really hard position, but there's definitely a niche following of guys that just love to get in the boat and compete, which is great. And I really hope that continues. But it's one of those things where you don't really know what you're getting into on a day in the water, but there's always something to learn for sure.
Yeah. Well, when you were a co-angler, did you and you had one of those guys that might have done that to you, did you spend your time just watching him? You just fished and you just off the back of the boat?
The one time I was a co-angler in a BFL, my boater blew up his motor. We got to like the second bridge running out of Laurel, blew up his motor, was calling Bass Pro Shops, cussing them out. It was a nightmare, and we fished our way back. But I primarily just looked at what he was throwing, threw something different, and kind of just picked my little zone and was like, all right, this is what I got, and I made the most of it.
Just make the most of it. That's pretty good. Let's see. Put me up some questions if I missed any of them.
We got Surf Dad or
Surf
Andrew?
Dad. Go to the next one. So Surf Dad's the next one right there. Appreciate you, Surf Dad. No electronic tournament would be awesome, or even a circuit. 6 different no electronics for the season. Now,
Does he know about?
I don't know if he knows about that. Can we speak about that possible tournament?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so guys, there and Andy showed me this today. Tentatively scheduled or is scheduled?
It's scheduled, but the only tentative thing is if it hits a 200 boat.
Got to hit 200
so
boats.
It has to have that to function.
So on Lake Lanier, first week of May?
April, 1st to the 4th.
April. There's a tournament that they're trying to get up on Lake Lanier where you cannot have no live scope, no 360, and no 360 transducers on your boat. If they meet the threshold and the amount of boats willing to fish it, according to what I saw today, first place would pay what?
$300,000.
$300,000.
What's entry fee?
Here's the catch: $5,000.
$5,000 to enter. $300,000.
$300,000.
I was so intrigued by it that I even hit Randy Blockett on his YouTube page. Like, hey,
Yes, we did.
I just want to know if you're behind any of this. I wanted him to hit me. I want to talk to him about it. But your daddy showed me that. You want to do it?
Yes, sir. I am doing it.
You feel pretty confident with no electronics.
It will definitely be a change just because I haven't fished without live scope for probably 2-3 years, but I'll make some trips without the unit on there and hopefully get back to my roots.
$300,000. That is now listen, if you win it, you're buying dinner one night.
Yeah.
I mean, $300,000. But again, a lot of comments like his, no electronic tournaments. That's something.
That's a hassle though, to have to take off your transducer AT and take it all the way off, unplug it, pull it all the way off your trolling motor.
It would be a hassle, but at that point, Trent with Sonar Pros can put it all back on for you if you want to do that. Make sure you hit up Trent and the guys. But scheduled, yeah, by appointment only. Pull up his banner. No, you ain't got to. But Sonar Pros will definitely fix it. But okay, what he just said, that's kind of a hassle. $5,000 entry fee. That's pretty steep. But is it worth it to you for that chance to win $300,000?
So I was actually kind of on the fence about it. I mean, it's a lot of money, especially for the point where I'm at in my life. $5,000's a ton of money.
Yes.
And I made kind of a joke to myself at blast off at the BFL. I said, for some odd reason, if I were to win this tournament, I knew it's going to be around $4,000 or $5,000. I said, that money's going to that tournament.
Yeah.
And I got the check and I looked at my dad and he was like, I know where that's going. I was like, straight to it.
And because we had the conversations, because next year you're going to fish the Toyota.
Yes, sir.
So the Opens or whatever they call
Toyota
it.
Series.
What's the payback on that tournament?
On the 300,000. So 40th place is actually $13,000.
Oh yeah, it's got it on the website.
And then top 12, I believe, is right over 20. And then the top few is like 45 and 35, I believe. So it's
no
the street cred for winning that. The street cred for that is priceless.
Like I don't need no electronics, right?
Right.
What was the name of it again? Because I know I got it pulled up on the computer, but I can't remember.
So it's TAA, which stands for Touring Anglers Association.
Touring Anglers Association. This will be, if they get the boats, it will be on the, and he's planning on doing more if he can get the interest.
This is just the inaugural one, and
he's
it's a really cool idea. It's kind of like the world's biggest pot tournament. Almost.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And he's definitely going to go to different lakes and stuff, but I'm sure there'll be some hiccups and things like that.
Oh, got to learn it. Yeah. Some learning experiences.
I don't think there'll ever be a tournament on Lake Lanier of this payout caliber in my lifetime again.
I mean, that's more than FLW, and
it's like the old days.
They came here. Yeah. I mean, that's big money right there. So again, it was Touring Anglers Association. So you guys, after the show, don't do it now. I don't want to see my numbers drop because you guys are Googling this thing, but go check it out because it has the rules, some of the things they're going to do to kind of cut costs so that the money, it's 100% payback tournament.
Yeah,
if it works right.
Right. The only money they're taking in, which is at minimal, is just operational costs, just to get everything there and set up. But there's no there's no money being held from. It's all going straight back to it.
If I can get Josh give me $5,000, I'll pull the old 10 rig out there with the Elko on it and go 9 miles an hour and fish that thing right there. So you guys check that out, Touring Anglers Association, and hopefully they get 200 boats, because I would love to go watch that weigh-in just to see what the differences are. Now in April, though, the good thing about April, your bedfish are coming into play too. So that a lot of guys will be running up north trying to catch them largemouth. So hey, if you guys got $5,000 laying around, or just call Kevin. Kevin will write you a check.
Yeah, right.
Is it a team or individual?
Individual.
Oh, would you sponsor me?
Sure. Sure.
I got a feeling I'd have to do something for that. All right, here we go.
Yum.
Yeah. There ain't no Brokeback Mountain going on here, Kevin. There ain't no Brokeback Mountain. No, I know
He's going to vapor lock again.
He's going to vapor lock. Kevin's going to
Yep,
vapor lock.
here we go.
Here
Vapor
we go.
locking.
He's vapor locking. I can't believe you said
okay?
I have to yum to get $5,000.
Are you all right?
I'm not cheap.
You're an expensive date, dude.
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
He's over here thinking like, what in the
Lord.
world have I got myself into?
Yeah.
All right, pull up this serious question here. What's your best advice for late March, early April on Lanier?
So definitely those fish are going to be moving shallower. So kind of what I was doing this previous tournament, the Nico rig, shaky head, just kind of those slower presentations are going to be a lot better for you when those fish are moving up to spawn.
Gotcha. So Mason Venable says, miss hitting with the lake with the old boy like back in those high school days.
Yeah, that's an old buddy of mine from high school. He's starting to fish pretty good now.
Yeah, well, just wait till you're our age, and then you think about them high school days. I'd sell mama to the foreigners to get back in high school. Let's see, scope neck. What does that mean?
That's my other nickname from college, because whenever someone drives by me on the lake, it looks like I'm breaking my neck.
Your screen stare?
Yeah.
I got you. Okay, so red and scope neck.
Yep, those are my two main nicknames.
Make sure I remember that, Tim. River rat. Right there. Let's see. And hey, guys, in about 19 minutes, we got the Opson Fluoro question of the week. So you guys stay tuned for that. Do you ever fish the north end or mainly stay south? And then you can answer this last part if you want. If so, where?
So I'll get the first two questions. So I actually grew up fishing the north end of Lanier, fishing the high school tournaments. That's
going out of Laurel.
Or we went out of Little Hall.
Little Hall, okay.
For
the
GHSF, I believe, maybe.
Yeah.
And I'd always run up to Wahoo Creek and just some of those areas above Gainesville Marina. And that's just kind of where I cut my teeth on Lanier.
Yeah.
And then over the years, I was like amazed at some of these weights coming in. And I was just never getting that like size class fish in my bag. If it was, it's just a random largemouth. So I started putting in down there at the dam at Mary Alice and just kind of really focusing all my time on the south end, because I felt that's where a lot of these guys were doing good, and that's kind of where I've been ever since.
For somebody that don't know Lake Lanier, kind of break down the differences between south, mid lake, and north.
So south end, you're going to have a lot more of your deeper, cleaner water, your ditches, more defined rock veins. And then as you make your way up the lake past Browns Bridge and all that, you have a little bit more stain. You can kind of do it a little more, I guess, shallow-ish fishing.
Yeah.
There's still offshore fish over there, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of more target-related almost, where you can throw a jig at a lay down or go crank a rock bank, something like that, maybe fish a dock on the south end. You can do all those techniques on either one, but on the south end, you have to be a little bit more in tune with everything, and fish are a little bit more tricky to catch, but the size is definitely down there, in my opinion.
What makes them tricky?
It's just the clear water. Everyone's down
just
there.
The water clarity and the pressure.
Everyone down there is fishing. There's not many holes out there that people don't know about. So it's really kind of just a middle side to it of kind of your own approach and what baits and all that that goes down to the south end.
All right, I got there. So let's see. Derek O, or is it Alex? Pull up Alex. Did we just ask that question? Oh, okay, here we go. What's your go-to bait and structure you look for on West Point this time of year?
I've been to West Point a good many times, and I've fished a lot of high school stuff down there growing up with Greg, actually.
Right.
And I'd probably be cranking a lot or throwing a chatterbait.
Has West Point got bluebacks in it?
It does not to my knowledge. I don't believe so.
Okay, so what's the predominant forage down there?
I would assume threadfin.
Threadfin, okay. All right, yeah, like I used to live in LaGrange, but I was like through like first grade, second grade. So, of course, my fishing was right there at the dam. We were trying to catch catfish behind it back in the day. That lake's changed though.
It's getting a little bit better recently.
Yeah, and they've been stocking a lot of largemouth in that lake.
They a few years ago, I remember, and I think it was Yellow Jacket Creek, right there above Highland Marina, where a lot of these big tournaments go out. They actually put 42,000 largemouth in there. I think those are kind of making their way into it and kind of growing and all that.
That's good because it used to be a largemouth lake, right?
It was phenomenal. A lot of my friends' granddads and growing up, and they talk about these insane stringers of largemouth that they used to catch out of there. And I think some of those spotted bass kind of almost competed and kind of hurt that population.
Yep. Spots are great fish. They're fun to catch, but they do wreak havoc on the lake once they get a hold
There
of it.
goes the neighborhood when they come in.
That's exactly right. Derek O., is there any standard etiquette around a co throwing up front after a boater has hooked up to catch followers?
From my knowledge, I believe the co-angler is not supposed to throw past a certain point at the console, maybe
right
at the boat, but I'm not really too sure. I wouldn't get mad
if you're already hooked up.
Right. I mean, I'm busy doing my thing, and someone throwing up there, I'm not sure for their rule's sake if that's against it or anything, but I wouldn't see a problem with that.
But that is the thing with spots. You pull one off. You pull
absolutely.
one, there's more coming.
In tournaments like that, there's times I'm like, hey, like drop right now, because I'd hook one and there'd be 10, 15 just kind of sitting there. And I mean, you could definitely catch one from behind the console. You just kind of have to have the bait ready and be ready to drop it.
But you yourself personally wouldn't have a problem with a guy chunking up there if you were already hooked up.
No, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But for his rules and everything, I wouldn't.
Now let me ask you.
Let
me ask you. Put you on the spot right here. You got one hooked up, co-angler. If you know it's against the rules, but the co-angler does it anyway, would you say something to him? Like, how would you approach that to him?
I would definitely tell him.
You say, hey, dude, you ain't supposed to be throwing up here.
Yeah, I'm not. I would never. I don't like the gray areas in fishing. And
you're black and white.
And if I did something like, and I know the Bassmaster tournaments, if you have 6 fish in live well, you make a cast, you report it, get a 2-pound penalty. I'd have to do that because I wouldn't be able to live with myself knowing something bad happened in my boat for sure.
Well, he could be disqualified too, possibly, for not reporting a violation.
That was my next question. Yeah, what kind of trouble would you get in if you didn't? So, honor system, you just got to have the integrity.
I would definitely say something.
I got you. I got you. Okay, it's good to know. I wish there were more co-angler friendly tournaments. Enjoy the learning experience. Having a good boater is crucial, though.
Yes.
Yeah, a good boater can make or break a co-angler for sure, 100%. One Fish Productions, a lot of yum with $300,000. Yeah, you could probably choose what you wanted to do with that. Tyler Waters, what's your choice of finesse rigs, and in what situations do you prefer to use them this time of year?
So the finesse rigs, like the Shakehead and Nico, those are my 2 go-tos, or smaller Demiki rig or a Kitech, and primarily that's going to be in the winter and moving into the pre-spawn. So
do you got a particular brand you like better than others without saying the colors or anything, as far as like your Shakeheads you like to throw? The Yumdinger is a good one. Gary Yamamoto, a little bit more expensive, but yeah. So you stick with those.
I don't really dabble into trying a bunch of new stuff.
They work.
If it works, I typically will just stick to it, and that'll be my kind of confidence bait, if you will. That's right. I stocked the store up with the Yumdinger colors and the Lanier colors that I like to throw. I will ask you this: if you're throwing a Nico or a Wacky, let's say you're in a largemouth lake as opposed to a spot lake. I find that when I throw a Wacky, and I know there's a lot of largemouth around, I go to the more traditional green pumpkins, those kind of colors. When I know there's a lot of spots around, especially when they're aggressive, I go more to shad colors. Do you do anything like that? Without telling me your color, I keep it the same across the board. Across the board. There are some quirks up here that only work up here, but when it comes to largemouth, I mean, green pumpkin, black and blue up here, I mean, you get dirty water, it's the same. You hear a lot of these, I guess, pros and all these guys, and they don't really get caught up on baits, and that's something I've kind of almost incorporated into my fishing. Is like I don't need 50 different variations of green pumpkin or something. But if you see a crawfish or something or you see a fish that spit up a crawfish and it was like red or orange, then it may be time to mix in something. But I keep it real simple for sure. That makes sense. Let's see, Brad Silvers.
What's your favorite bait for early May on the south end of Lanier? Early May, so you get a little bit of post spawn going in there.
Yeah, that's maybe tail end of the herring spawn, but probably a fluke or Seville would be just a
That's about the time everybody starts chunking them things. Yeah. Flukes and Seville, especially with the herring spawn. Yeah, Seville baits, they're tough to beat when the herring are spawn. Let's see. Give me old James Collins right here. Now, let's see this comment. Now, what about this? If the graph isn't on the boat, can the transducer stay?
See,
I'd say that's it, you know.
If he's talking about
that tournament that we were talking about,
that's going to be my main question, because, like y'all said, it's going to be a pain to rip off transducer. Like, because I have mine perfect, everything, the wiring, and I don't really want to take off the transducer, but at the same time,
that tournament,
it'll be one of those things where it has to happen.
Well, if you got Ethernet, you can run that all the way to the console, so you could take your graph off the front, still read it on the console.
Yeah, but I think in this tournament it was nothing, no electronics whatsoever.
And
so I think you could. Well, yeah, that's the problem. Is the console ones are generally mounted. Those would be more difficult to remove.
You couldn't take them off; it'd be tough.
Yeah, and you also can't have any waypoints on your graph for this tournament.
Yeah, there's some rules, dude.
So I plan on just taking my 2 Lowrance units off with all my waypoints and just solely running my Humminbird for mapping, just so I don't have to deal with all that. But
and that would be allowed
in
that tournament
to take the units off,
to have the Humminbird for mapping.
Mm-hmm. You can use.
You just can't have the live scope, and you can't have the 360.
Right, but you can, in the ride around period. There's no practice for this event, but you can use your traditional side scan, down imaging, all that.
Okay,
and you can use 2D up front or anything like that for this one.
Jeremiah, for $5,000, I'll scuba dive under the boat and tell you where the fish brush and the evil spirits are at. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'd probably try to do that too. April, though, won't that just be a sight fishing tournament anyway? I would imagine there would be some, but you know how bass come up in waves. So not every bass on the lake is going to be on bed. So
I mean, we will definitely see a lot of largemouth play just by nature. It's April spawning. It's not going to be avoidable, but the person that wins it will still incorporate spot fishing, and they won't be able to consistently catch 5 giant largemouth for 3 days. Yeah, in my opinion.
Right.
That's
it's a 3-day tournament. Yeah. No, it's gonna have to be some work. It ain't one and done. You got to go out and prove your medal over 3. That would be, but that'd be some old rich guy and some overalls get out there with his 1436 Illumicraft, and he's out there. He might be the one to win it. You never know.
Mr. Hancock.
Skittish on day 3.
Day 3, yeah, they will be. Surf Dad Brooks is a great guy, and the guests here lately have been really good. And I'll tell you, next week we're gonna have Rick Stuckelberg, if you guys know of him, Sweet Baits, and I think I'm not 100% sure that he started Fish Head Spin. He'll be on with Kevin Underwood, who finished 3rd in the tournament. They're going to come in next week, and Kevin has a surprise announcement. I told him I did not know I didn't want to know about it. I want to learn about it at the same time you guys do. So that's next week. So you guys definitely be here. I'm open to sponsors, James Collins. So yeah, if any of you guys want to sponsor me $5,000 in this tournament, I'll go do it. I'd have to take my 360 off. Connor Hewitt right there, next one. Got 7 minutes to the question of the week. Where would you look for staging fish as right now and in muddy water, some of the top baits for it? Staging fish.
Definitely a crankbait for the muddy water, just being efficient like we've talked about. But in the muddy water, they can feel the bait and you can cover a lot more water. But as far as locations go, definitely secondary points and kind of those channel swings, working your way into the creeks a little bit. Still, you can start in the main lake, but just try to run a creek per se and hit a couple of different areas and kind of get a gauge for what those fish might be doing.
I got you. All right, now, you guys listen. You keep your questions coming. Got about 6 minutes or so to do the question of the week. I want to, and if I miss it or Tim misses it, put it in there again. But I want to give you I want to go over the tournament. I want to make sure we cover the BFL a little bit, and then we'll get back to the questions. We've already talked about your practice and all that. Going into the tournament, you said the weather had changed a little bit from what you had done before. So how did that affect you at Blastoff? Did it change to where you were going to, your first spots or two?
So I pulled up to one of the primary ditches. I thought I could feel a quick limit, and the wind was actually blowing through there a lot heavier than I thought just because of the way it was blowing, and I couldn't get my bait to them. I saw fish everywhere, and I wasted about 25 or 30 minutes trying to catch those fish when it was, I don't want to say impossible, but it took a lot more than usual to kind of get them going.
Yeah.
So that was definitely kind of a curveball right off the rip.
Are you the kind of tournament angler that likes to get 5 in the boat quick and then call the rest of the day? Do you have that, mentality?
Actually, on some lakes I do, but back here at home on Lanier and Hartwell, it's no new thing if I don't have a fish in the boat by 10. It's just
right, yeah.
It's just kind of
well, you know that things. This lake could turn on at any second and they'll start biting. So now before lunch, just so we know how your day went, how much of your 23 pounds did you have before lunch?
Before 11, 0. And then after 11, it picked up pretty good.
So you went the first 3 or 4 hours of that tournament without a fish in the boat?
I caught one 11-incher at that first spot, and that honestly probably hurt me because it made me mad.
Right, yeah.
And then I did pull off one pretty good one about 9:30, but I lost that one as well.
So what time was weigh-in?
My check-in was 3:45.
Okay, so from 11 to 3:45 is when you put 23 pounds in the boat.
But we were also at a Laurel, so I had to factor 40 minutes.
Okay, so you basically had 3 hours roughly sewed of actual fish.
11 to 2:30 is where it went down. And
you started on the south end?
Mm-hmm.
So you made that long drive all the way down to the south end. Striking out, what's your mindset?
It was kind of all over the place, honestly. It's first BFL of the year, and I'm fishing all of them, try to get points for the regional,
right,
and make it there.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have a decent finish at best, and just kind of maybe make my money back or something.
Yeah.
And at like 10 o'clock, I was like, all right, we got to kind of go into survival mode and get some fish in the boat. So it was, emotions were all over the place in the morning. It was, I wasn't fishing the best for sure.
I can imagine that. And you put that pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
Especially you like Lanier and Hartwell are kind of like your home lakes. That's where you like to fish. So what adjustment did you make from 11 to the rest of the day?
So at, I think it was 10:30, 10:45 maybe, pulled out of the wind, and I was like, I just want to fish in somewhere that's calm and be able to see my bait and just slow down and pick a few areas that I think they should be. And I rolled into an area out of the wind, just behind a point, nothing crazy. Saw a fish up there, threw over there. Another fish came off the bottom that I didn't see and ate it right away. And I was like, that's by nature, that's probably a pretty good fish. So I set the hook, and at this point, I've missed a few. My head's all over the place.
Yeah.
I could tell, like, when I set the hook, something wasn't just, like, perfect. And you had that kind of gut feeling, like, all right, that wasn't the best hookup
Not
or something.
Textbook.
And my co-angler comes up there with the net. The fish is pretty much right under the trolling motor. And I just see him turn. It's about 4.5 pounder. And a shake head comes straight up. And I'm like, I was like, it hurt.
Yeah, I'm sure there were some words in your mind, at least. Yeah.
Well, but in tournament fishing, I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but losing fish doesn't really faze me anymore. I look at it as like, hey, you did everything right to get that bite. You're in the right spot. You got that fish to bite. Let's take it and make a positive out of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as hard as it is getting your first bite and a 4.5 pounder coming off, it's like, everything's wrong. This is terrible. Don't need this to happen. I was like, slow down and maybe we can make something out of this area.
You're more mature than I. I'd be breaking rods by that time. Something's getting broke.
And then the new words.
Oh, I'd be like Bobby Cox getting cut out of a Braves game. It would be ugly. All right, so let me ask you, that first bait, that first bite, 4-punny, if I hooked up, moving bait or you're more finesse shaky head?
This is on a shaky head.
It was on a shaky head. See, a lot of people for some reason think that tournament winning fish can't be caught on a shaky head. I hear it all the time in the shop. Like I catches fish, but I don't catch tournament winning fish.
Yeah, it does.
It does. Would you say what percentage of your fish, of your pounds, were caught on shaky heads or Nikos as compared to the Kitex?
4 of the 5.
4 of the 5 were caught on a shaky head.
Or Nico.
Or Nico. But
similar. Same thing. Same
right.
premise.
Yeah, same kind of technique. Okay, so we talked real quick, and I'll do the question of the week after this. We talked real quick before the show, and you talked earlier about having that 3-pound fish.
Yeah.
And knowing in your mind, I got to see, to me, that's a 2-pound fish. I got to call this 2-pounder. To you, you've gotten to the point now where a 3-pound fish, I got to call that fish.
Which it sounds crazy, and you're like, a 3-pounder, that's a good fish on most lakes.
Yeah.
But fishing these local tournaments, especially the Scott Barnes one. I've just entered those in the past couple months. Just cut my teeth. Like those guys are way better, and they know what they're doing, and they've been fishing this lake. I mean, it is the stoutest local competition I've ever seen on a lake. But to just get in that mentality of like, all right, 3-pounders are worthless today. You know, it's got to be 4 and some change to even make a difference at the scale. That's been something just around here that's really changed my approach to tournaments, and it's been something that's really helped me a lot.
Yeah, you know, Scott was on what, a month or 2 ago?
He's been several times.
He's been on several times. He came on with a meal
about 8 weeks ago or so.
About 8 weeks ago, and one of the things we talked about with his tournaments, this is a complaint I hear a ton. Guys will say, I don't fish Scott Barnes' tournaments because the competition's so good and I'm just throwing away my money. I know I talked to Emil about it and his perspective, but to get another point of view, what's your perspective when people say something like that in one of the mayor's tournaments?
Honestly, in my opinion, it's the only way to get better on the lake is to fish well out of your comfort zone. You may lose $100, but in that experience, you're competing against guys that are the best of the best. So if you want to elevate your fishing to that level, there's no one else to compete against on the lake, in my opinion. And me and Emil actually have a running joke, and it's like 20 is par on Lanier. And
golf analogy there.
And it sounds funny. It's like 20 pounds. That's an incredible sack. But in the past year, you've seen these 21, 22, 23, 24 Prince had. I mean, just insane weights that are ridiculous. But it kind of seems like 20 pounds just like almost the starting point in some of those and kind of those local tournaments. Yeah. But that started out as a running joke, but over time, it's kind of become like a reality. It's like, right, we need 20 to be somewhat up there.
But, you know, using the golf analogy right there, you don't play golf to really compete. You're not supposed to compete against the other golfers. You're competing against the course. So just saying 20 pounds is par, you're competing with the lake.
Right.
And if you have the day that you beat the lake, you get a check.
Absolutely.
I like that analogy. We got to keep that one there, Tim. Make sure I don't forget that one. All right, real quick, we're going to get back to your questions. But right now, you got that question pulled up there?
I do.
All right, so it's the Option Fluoro question of the week. Again, guys, you can go to optionusa.com. I will the winner of this, whoever gets this question right, I will send you a code. I think Clint, I owe you a code, so there's a couple. I got to get I do finally have the codes. You get $50 off at optionusa.com for any of the products I got there. And again, they're working with a distributor right now to get these in the store. Looking at a launch in April, so I'm looking forward to having them here. So again, you're going to have to be the one, because I don't know the answer, and I don't know if Tim does, so you got to be the judge on this. I will tell you this, guys, for future. If you're watching on YouTube and you're watching on Facebook and you type the questions in at the same time, hit enter at the same time, YouTube always goes first. We always get the YouTube guy first. So with that,
you ready?
Kevin, it's on you.
Okay. Who was the first father and son to compete against each other in the Bassmaster Classic, and what year was that?
So two-part question. Father and son to compete against each other.
The first father and
son. Father and son to compete against each other, and what year was it? So you guys do that. Hey, bartender, Joe Boo needs a refill. I don't care. Just surprise me. Joe Boo. Anyway, do you know the answer to that question?
I actually don't.
I don't either. I don't ever know, but normally it's a 5-part question. So guys are Googling right now. And you keep your eyes out on the thing.
Watching.
You're watching that. So while Blake tears the house down, we got our local Yahoo in the house with us. So
Blake's doing an awesome job back there.
He's doing an awesome
job. Elijah's got
that.
part of it, but he's only got half.
Elijah.
What year was that? Okay,
so there you go. You guys look at Elijah's answer. We need a year.
There it is, Max Wilson.
What is that? Well, read the answer out.
The answer is Bill and Gregory Ward, 1975.
What lake was it on?
There we go.
Oh, I don't know.
I was just curious if you knew.
No, I didn't do that part.
Okay, you do that part. All right.
You said it was too hard when I got 3 points.
It normally is, because we're simpletons around here. We're not all educated like he is. We don't all have that college education.
I can get your participation trophy.
Look at my running joke is yum yum. How complex do we get around here? You know. All right, so listen, Max Wilson, number 1, appreciate you watching. Number 2, if you will reach out to me on Facebook Messenger or however, I will send you the code tomorrow. I got to send out a couple other codes, and I'll definitely get them out to you tomorrow. Tim, while you're scrolling up to find any of the questions that we've missed, I want to talk to you though. What did it feel like when you knew I got this? When they announced you as the winner, just the emotions going through your mind and all that.
Like I said earlier, it still didn't even feel real when it happened. And I kind of got in the truck and made it halfway home, and it kind of hit me. I was like, that just happened.
Yeah.
Any tournament I've done really well in, it never like really hits me as soon as I weigh in, just because like all the stress and everything that the day entails. It's like there's not like a defined ending point. It's like you barely had anything to eat. You had maybe a water or two, and you're just really kind of shook up. And it takes a little while for me for it to kind of kick in.
I think it's awesome, and we did it with Will Harkins with his MPFL trophy, and then I had Emil bring his what was that? He won the All-American and those. Do you realize though? There's only, and I know they do it across the United States, but there's only a handful. If you take all the anglers that actually fish in this country, there's only a handful, percentage-wise, that have that trophy. What you did.
Yes, sir.
It's not. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Hell, I'd like to have it. And of course, if you want to leave it here for those to see it, the story, you're more than welcome. I've been trying to get Emil to leave his here.
It was held on Currituck Sound, North Carolina.
Oh, where?
Currituck.
Hell, that lake probably don't even exist no more, does it? I ain't never heard of that lake.
I haven't either.
Are you pronouncing it right?
Currituct.
Well, sounds right to me, I guess.
CK.
We'll roll with that.
We'll roll with it. All right, so let's jump back on. Is Mason Venable the next question there, sir?
I believe that'll do.
All right, Mason, are you fishing any swim jigs with the seasons to come? And what's your favorite color swim jig?
I typically don't throw too much on Lanier. I kind of opt towards different baits, but I do like Dirty Jigs. Has a lot of them. 6 cents. There's some really good bluegill and shad colors. I keep it simple with everything else, white or bluegill. That's about it.
All right, I'm going to drop some juice for you guys. I will not tell you who, but we tie here a swim jig that is white and it is orange. And that's all. I sell them. Hell, I don't care to tell you the color. White and orange, and there are several anglers in the Lake Lanier area that believe that right there is just a bait you need to be throwing on. I don't know if they do that Alabama shake crap and all when they throw it. I don't know how they're throwing it, but white and orange on Lanier works a lot. Y'all like that? All right, Alabama shake. I mean, could you imagine doing that while you're reeling? But anyway, white and orange. I'm just telling you, if you want me to tie you up some, give me a call. I'll do that. But that actually does work pretty good. What's your favorite bait to throw for spawning spots? Now, again, spots spawn, on average, a little deeper than largemouth. To me.
A little later, too.
Huh?
A little later,
but and you're going to answer this question, but in talking with a lot of guys, a lot of them just go with a shaky head.
That's going to be my answer. That or Nico. Something you can keep right in front of their face.
And Ryan and I've had this conversation before with other people too, though. A largemouth on the bed pretty much is going to be, you got to put that bait. Boy, I love them big loud cars late at night. You got to put that bait right on the bed. But a spot is a little more aggressive when they go on the bed.
Definitely.
They're willing to because they're just pissed off fish. They're willing to just, if you get it in the area, a lot of guys use a shaky head almost like a search bait for those spots on the bed. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, you do anything like that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. So that's what I would say. Now, again, we're talking Lake Lanier, but I imagine Alatoona would probably be the same. Hartwell. So, yeah, that's it. But do keep in mind that on average, whereas you can go up and see a largemouth in a foot or two of water and you can see the bed, spots are generally, what do you say? The hell, they'll go as deep as 15 feet sometimes, won't they?
They'll spawn on humps. They'll do all types of crazy stuff.
They're just different fish.
Yeah.
Which one do you like better, spots or largemouth?
For bed fishing?
No, just fishing in general.
I love spotted bass, but I do like travel around and catch some big largemouth. That's a lot of fun for sure.
Okay, so I'm going to pose this. 15-pound largemouth, 10-pound spot. Which would you rather have? What would be more impressive to you?
For me personally, the spot would be just because that's a freak of nature fish.
Yeah.
And nothing against a 15-pound largemouth. That would be incredible experience as well. But I've spent so much time catching those mid-range spots, 3 to 5 pounders per se. And just I wouldn't even know how to look at a spot that was that big.
That would be the lake record too, I believe, on there. What about you, Kevin?
I'll take a 10-pound spot.
Okay. What about you, Timothy?
I like largemouth. That's
I knew you were going to
You
say
knew it was
that.
coming.
I knew you would be the largemouth guy. That's that old Rocky Mountain, West Georgia in him. All right, what's the next question we got going on?
Let's try this.
Let's try scratch again. What with summer coming, what's your favorite top water for Lanier? What do you throw your flukes on, and how do you rig them? So let's do the first part of that thing. What's your favorite top water?
Favorite top water it'd probably be, I guess, the chug bug. That's kind of my favorite. But on my YouTube channel, I have 5 to 8 videos on fluke rigging, top waters, and all the good stuff on there.
Go ahead and shout your channel out. Why?
It's Brooks Anderson Fishing on YouTube.
Keep it simple.
That's
You ain't got nothing I got to remember.
Nope.
So guys, go and to his channel after the show. Make sure you give him a subscribe. And also, while I got it on my mind, Tim, you got a channel as well. What's yours?
You can follow me at T_McGuire Outdoors.
Yeah, follow those two guys. Help them build it up because, hey, we want everybody to have some success with it, with the exception of a few people. But other than that, I'm just kidding.
Wrong.
It's big enough for everybody. All right. So, okay. So that was the first thing. So, but in a real general, since they can go watch the video, you Texas rig your flukes or do you nose hook them?
Texas rig them.
You're a Texas rig. Do you use a swivel or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay.
I throw them primarily on spinner rod as well.
Okay. All right. There you go. So, yeah, go check out those videos. Adam W. Fishing. Good to see you there, buddy. How do you fish a Seville? Any tips for increased catch rate with it? Yeah. Do you ever slow it down?
So the Seville is going to be really fast paced for me.
Yeah.
And it's a bait, in my opinion, that I've grown up throwing it since I was probably 12, 13 years old when the originals were out. And it's really not a bait that is intended to be slow, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's it performs better at a higher speed. So definitely kind of keeping it consistent, almost faster retrieve with it has been something that gets a lot more of those fish to commit and doesn't give them a whole lot of time to be like, all right, that's just definitely not real up there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's kind of just a reaction thing.
It is a reaction. But now, can you tell a difference? Because I hear this argument all the time. Can you tell a difference between the original Seville and the magic swimmers that they put out now?
1,000%. I have about 10 to 12 of the originals in a safe right now.
In a safe.
In a safe.
What's the difference for somebody that might not know?
It's kind of been a trend over the past few years of just mass produced stuff and the quality going down. And I'm not just harping on the Seville per se, but
it's across the board with a lot of stuff.
Right. And we're not talking names or anything, but
you want me to? I won't. No, I won't.
But
I just want to make him laugh. You
got
a nice smile, man. You got to smile more often.
But it's definitely the old ones have a lot more fluid action. And if I were to slow down with the Seville, it would definitely be one of the older ones because the newer ones, if you do slow them down, the joint's almost like catch on itself and it looks really unnatural in the water.
I got you. And that's generally your answer right there is what most guys would say. And also like the old Sevilles will kick back a little bit when you slow them down like that. So I kind of figured that might be Ken Pruitt.
Where's he? Hold on.
Ken Pruitt in the house. So he's got a question.
I got the peanut gallery pulled up.
How big is Danny's worm when he's going wacky style? It just depends on what wacky style you really want to know about. Both about 5 inch. That's what I like. That's a good answer for you. I don't throw nothing but a 5 inch Senko. I don't get into the 4s or the bigger. I think
he won't even look at the camera. There he is.
Yeah, Ken's in the background, so I don't really know.
Bragging.
Again, it's the crowd I hang with, man. It's the crowd I hang with. How big's your worm? Kevin.
He's going to vapor lock again, folks. Vapor lock number 2. You okay? Can't get him some water.
And if I call the missus, is she going to verify that? Huh? She ain't going to say Ned rig, are you?
No. I hope not.
He's over. You're like feeling so uncomfortable right now, aren't you?
That's just normal guy talk.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you're in college.
Just shop talk.
It's shop talk.
I throw a 6-inch wacky.
You like the 6 is better than the 5s?
I'm more used to it.
But
Vapor lock number 3.
Kevin, you're turning red, Kevin. I'm not giving you mouth to mouth or nothing. You better stay with us. Okay, you understand that? You better stay with me. All right.
I got you.
I love you, but I ain't kissing you or nothing like that.
I got you.
No Brokeback Mountain here.
No.
No, here we go. All right. So next question.
Okay.
Tyler Waters looks like he has a serious question now that we have.
Somebody have a civilized question?
Yeah.
Please?
How do you try to approach a lake that is either? I can't even read it because you're still laughing, Kevin. How do you try to approach a lake that is either known for being a hard lake?
Okay, I got it.
You got it. You got Kevin. I mean,
known for being a hard lake to fish.
yes.
Or a lake you haven't fished before. What kind of mindset do you take?
So,
I'm sorry, kid.
Is he gonna be okay?
I got this dirty old man beside me right here that is just killing
Lord.
me right now. Go ahead and answer the
Vapor
question.
lock number 5.
Listen, if he falls out, he falls out.
Go ahead, Brooks.
so
Can you see the question,
I
Brooks?
can.
Okay.
So, definitely the biggest thing I've done in the past couple of years is kind of breaking down an area of the lake and just taking that for what it is. And I'll spend multiple hours in a creek arm or a section and try to get a few bites in that area. And then I'll kind of run across the lake and run around and try to replicate that. I think it's pretty key to just pick an area, understand what's happening on the lake, and then go and replicate that from that.
That's a great answer, and I don't even know what the hell the question was.
Thank you, Tyler, for that very civilized adult
there you
question.
go. There you go. Connor Hewitt. I'll get back on track right here. Like, I really think we're going to have to get some medical attention for Kevin. Look at him. This is going on 5 minutes now.
He's breathing, so we're good.
He's breathing.
All right, let's get back into
This
it.
ain't Weekend at Bernie's over here.
He's a young
We're going to have to walk his ass out.
There's a lot of dust in this room.
How deep of a crank would you be throwing right now? Now,
Uh,
again, you mentioned earlier you like the rock crawlers.
yeah, so the
Yeah.
9 to 12 one is kinda,
Yeah, the 55s.
that's the best for lakes
Yeah.
around here. Just
I
dogs,
personally think that's the best crankbait out there for these lakes.
bar none.
Yeah.
That, then you go to the Little John, and of course, Rapalla's got the DTs and all that. But I don't think you can beat a rock crawler. Now, do you ever crank during the summertime or anything like that?
Not too much.
Yeah, I don't either. You don't try no deep water cranking or anything like that?
Well, not out here. that
Not here on
much.
Lanier, just only out there.
There you can do it on brush piles and stuff, but it's not the most.
There's
efficient.
better
Yeah.
options.
I mean, they'll eat it, I'm sure, at some point in time, but it's not something I'm gonna pick up too
Yeah.
often.
That would be like a punt, 4th down, and Hail Mary. Dennis Rice, again, glad you guys are joining us tonight. What size leaders do you throw on your shaky head and Nico rig? What pound test?
So I throw an 8-pound Seaguar red label leader, and it's really the cheapest fluorocarbon you can buy. But what I found is the strongest. So I throw 8-pound red label, and then I pretty much just reel it until the knot gets at the reel. So rod length or 2.
Rod length or 2. Just for curiosity's sakes, what knot you use for your leader?
I believe it's called the Alberto.
Yeah, Alberto, good old Alberto.
Can't go wrong with it.
No, unless I tie it. Jake Brooks, right here. Let's see. Have you thrown a Demiki in the summer?
I have. And if I do it, I typically will throw a lot larger of a bait than for say the winter. But it's not something I do a ton, but it's definitely something you can catch fish on in the summer.
You know, the thing about when people say Demiki, you have those that will say Demiki is a presentation technique. And then a lot of people believe it's like the bait, like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, they believe like it's the bait. So, and I don't know what he was thinking, but do you do anything like with your Demiki? Are you more of a yo-yo style? A lot of guys like to yo-yo it a little bit, or you just, you got to just straight vertical drop. I mean, is there one presentation you like better than the other?
I definitely prefer to throw it to him away from the boat, just with all the pressure and everything. It seems like the further cast you can make with it, the more likely you are to get those fish to bite.
Yeah.
But there's also times in the winter that it's just deadly over timber or something,
Right.
just vertical, and just the power of that bait is just being able to keep it right at their face or right above them until they eat it. So it's kind of an endless possibility thing in the Demiki, but there's definitely a lot of sneaky things that get fish to bite it versus everyone just throwing it out there and not having much luck.
That technique of just holding it off the boat, I realize there are guys that can catch fish, but that is the boringest fishing I've ever experienced. Is to just try to hold that Demiki just there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd much rather cast it like that. Same with drop shot. I'd rather cast a drop
Right.
shot than I would vertically. But I mean, it works.
Absolutely.
I do find that the guys that generally do the more vertical fishing, at least in my circle, do not catch as big a fish on either one of those presentations as if they're casting to the brush pile like that. So, what ounce shaky head do you prefer? And I imagine that changes based upon where you're at.
It does. So around here, I'm never going heavier than 3/16, even in deep water, and a lot of times in the winter, especially spawn they're coming up on. We've had some questions about March and April bed fishing and kind of those spawning spots. 1/8 ounce is really powerful as well.
A lot of guys, I feel when they come in the shop, I'm not on your level as an angler. You're a champion, but I like the lighter presentation with the shaky head because I think the fall rate, and that's something Kevin Underwood taught me, who again will be a guest next week. That sometimes you can go with that 1/8 ounce or even short and allow that bait to fall down just a little bit. Now, do you throw any jigs?
I do.
So we had another interesting conversation. Again, this is from my knowledge, not necessarily those watching. I had some guys in here earlier this week, and we were talking about weights. And when guys order jigs from me, the standard saying 3/8. Can't go wrong with a 3/8. But I had like 5 guys in here, and all 5 of them say they don't throw nothing but a 1/4. Now, do you ever throw jigs that light? And their reasoning was, as it falls, it allows those twin tail, it allows it to stay where the fish can see it a little bit more. A 1/2 ounce is way too heavy. 3/8 is still a little bit too fast. They like throwing the 1/4s and lighter. So what's your thought on that?
I'm direct opposite. I'm 1/2 ounce or 3/4.
Really?
Yeah, and there's a lot. It's kind of a thing that Live Scope has taught me, and with the jig specifically, it's the heavier ones have their place. And I know a lot of guys that throw that 1/4 ounce, like you say, and they value the fall and the twin tail. But for me, there's some pretty cool stuff you can do with a heavy jig, and we'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. That's fine. That's fine.
You can slow that jig down depending on what trailer you use.
Absolutely.
Right.
You can. But that's just why I love getting different people on this show. There's really no wrong answer. You figured out something with a little bit heavier. These guys figured out something a little bit lighter, and that's in your comfort zone. That's in their comfort zone. And there's really no wrong answer right there.
Confidence.
Confidence. So now, did that using that heavier weight, is that something you just learned on Lanier, or is that something you picked up from, say, your mentor back in the day? Something you've always done?
That's been something I've kind of almost taught myself on Lanier, and Live Scope has really like shown me it, but it's something I've done well before. And
right.
It's just
Live Scope verified it.
It was kind of like a confirmation thing. It's like, I'm seeing what they're doing now, but I've been doing it for 5-6 years with that kind of mentality.
So you know what messes up a guy like me is I hear these guys in here earlier this week, and I've been thinking, man, I've been throwing too heavy of a jig. And then I get him on, and now I'm thinking, hell, maybe I ain't throwing heavy enough. So, but you can't fish another man's
regardless, what's your confidence?
I have no confidence in a jig. I can tie the hell out of one, but I have no confidence throwing it whatsoever. So, how much of the time of the year do you spend throwing jigs?
I throw it a lot out here.
Okay.
And it's a really good tournament bait, and it can definitely put a lot better size quality fish in the boat.
Yes.
But it's also a bait you can waste a lot of time with.
Yes.
So there's a lot to be – the jig fishing up here is really specific, more so than anywhere else in the country. And on some of my trips, I've broken down the differences of specific jigs out here and why they eat those better than others.
Yeah. You got that on your YouTube page?
A little bit.
A little bit. You got to keep a little juice. I get it.
If someone pays to go out with me, I'm going to give them the real deal, and we're going to talk about it and why those fish eat it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff.
So you run guide trips?
Yes, sir. I started doing that this past year.
What's the name of your guide service? Is it Brooks Anderson Fishing?
.com.
He keeps it simple, don't he? I mean, so guys, listen, hey, if you want to know that juice on the jig or whatever else he does, pay the man, let him take you out and teach you. So I think you can tell by the nature of his answers tonight, he knows what he's talking about. So I think that would be well worth the money. Drop shot is best on the beds. What time of year do you start throwing a buzzer? I assume he's saying buzzbait.
Buzzbait or horny toad, maybe.
Yeah.
Definitely probably in that May area, May and June, especially
post spawn.
Yeah, those bluegill beds, it's a phenomenal bait.
That's the key to a lot of it. When them beds start showing up for the bluegill.
But you can in the spawn, it's also a really cool bait. Just see where those fish are at. If you get one to just blow up on it, you come back later in the day, you're like, oh, there's a couple on bed or a couple under a dock, something like that. So it's a really good search bait for the spring and right into that immediate post spawn.
Kind of like a lot of guys use the mag draft.
That's what. Yeah.
A lot of guys will throw that mag draft, and they're like, "I know I'm probably not gonna catch a fish." They wanted to show.
Mm-hmm.
They want to move that fish. So, Zach Clark, do you use a shaky head Nico when you see fish close to the bottom, or do you throw it on suspended fish too?
So I do both with that.
Okay.
And if I see suspended fish, I will definitely throw both those baits to them and catch a lot of them that way. And it's also a really cool bait, kind of like last week when they were talking about the blinker fish. It's a bait you can keep right in front of their face on the bottom, and it just kind of antagonizes them until they have to eat it.
Yeah.
So it can do both, and those 2 rigs are about all you need most of the times of the year out here.
All right, you heard that. Those 2 rigs are about all you need most of the time out here. So I like that. Interesting question. 10-pound smallie or 10-pound spot?
I'm sticking with spot.
That'd be more impressive to you, 10-pound spot.
I've seen a lot of 8 and 9 pound smallmouth being caught kind of out west, I guess. Some of those lakes, and don't get me wrong, I would lose my mind if I caught a 10-pound smallmouth. But just from my personal experience and holding so many spotted bass, I don't think I would know what to do if a 10-pound spot was in my boat.
I get that. What about you, Kevin?
I'll stick with the spot.
You'll stick with the spot? All right, largemouth guy back there. What about you? You don't get the largemouth choice. 10-pound smallie or 10-pound spot?
Smallie.
Why you go smallie?
Because I keep going up to the Tennessee River trying to catch a big one, and so far I haven't broke the 5-pound barrier.
Okay, I get that though. Seriously. Pull that next one down because I haven't seen that name on here. Wald Perks TV. Again, thank you for joining us tonight. I caught a 10-pound largemouth on chicken. She didn't hardly fight. I've caught a 5-pound spot and it fought like a shark.
True.
That is true. Now that is true. When the largemouth gets so big, it's almost like dragging a turtle in after they give you that initial fight. So as far as the fight goes, I could see that 100%. Appreciate you joining us tonight right there.
Absolutely.
So Derek Spicer, love Brooks' channel. Man, you're getting a lot of good compliments on your channel. So you guys, again, Brooks Anderson Fishing on YouTube.
Yep.
Keep it simple. I like that.
Elijah Moon.
What is that?
That one.
Read that, Kevin. Let's get you a chance to read tonight.
If you were fishing as a co in the BFL out in 55 feet of water while your boater is scoping in front, what would you be throwing?
That's a good question.
I would 100% be throwing a contact just because I can kind of pick my water level with that and be moving a bait through the water and kind of have a shot at catching.
Trying to find
fish.
a roamer or something out there.
Right. And then when you do get bit on that, you can take note of, hey, I'll let it go down 15 foot in this ditch per se and kind of go from there.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing with the co-angler, if the boater is scoping, is as hard as it may be, just try to focus on what you have in front of you. And if you can make a cast to the bank or if he starts catching fish, it's kind of like take note of what's happening and what you can do to your approach.
Do you leave your console unit on so that the co-angler can see maybe side scan or down scan or something?
Right. So I actually don't run any sonar besides that live scope just to cut off on interference and just noise and presence in the water. But if my co-angler requested 2D or side scan, I'd have no problem turning it on for him.
It's a good answer. I'll tell you what. Brad Silvers, what size shaky head, hook, and weight? Now, again, you said just a second ago, 3/16 and 1/8. That's what you throw a lot of them, right?
Yes, sir.
And what size hook?
3/0.
3/0. Did you see that jig that came out? Was it Missile? Was it Cruise?
It's missile baits.
The monsters.
With a
That
10-aught
thing's
hook?
huge.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Is that okay? Now listen, I always tell everybody there's 2 baits in the tackle shop: those that catch fish and those that catch anglers. Would you ever throw anywhere you've been, and you may know a lake, but would you throw a jig with a 10-aught hook, and what trailer would you put on that?
I personally could never pick that up and throw it.
Yeah,
But I'm definitely for oversized jigs. Some of those old school living rubber ones. I've caught a lot of fish on those and largemouth lakes and that. But personally, tying on that, I wouldn't even know what to throw it at or how.
Good Lord, it looked like a gaff. I mean, it didn't even look like a hook.
Sounds like an Iconelli bait.
Oh, Iconelli.
Yep.
He likes throwing big ones.
No, it's just something different.
It is different.
I think he may have had a little bit of influence on it between him and John Cruz.
Yeah.
You think Ike had a little influence? Influence on that bait?
I think so.
I just remember him holding it up, and I was like, what in the world? What trailer would you put on that?
I would have to go with some type of big swim bait. or something. I don't
like
think.
a 3/8 Kitech or something.
Maybe one of them super huge flukes, or
Yeah, I would have to have something like honestly like a 6/8 or something Kitech, like something to match.
A big one. You're going big, yeah.
Well, just to match the profile. Because I don't think there's a crawl bait out there that would even make it.
Yamamoto don't make one. Yeah,
I mean, it'd be.
So interesting question. With you having it like that, would you use it more as a swim bait? Or swim jig?
Yeah, I would not be able to confidently drag that thing anywhere.
That makes sense. Okay, so there you go. All right, so what rods and reels are you using?
I use all Shimano and G-Limis rods, particularly the NRX Pluses and the X rods. And they're phenomenal rods, and there's not a better rod money can buy, in my opinion, than those.
So I get a lot of guys that will come in the shop. We'll talk about ordering rods, and a lot of them say, I can feel just as good with a $200 rod as you can with a $600 rod. What's your opinion on that?
I'm completely in agreement with that. I don't think it makes that big of a difference, but some of these techniques I do use are like really specific, and just having a perfectly balanced rod in my hand. And I've grown up fishing with those rods, and been the opportunity to actually get some more this year and team up with them. And it's been amazing to have what I feel like is the best equipment out there in my hands.
Are you sponsored by them? You said team up. I mean, what was that agreement?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, there you go. How many? What other sponsors you got?
I just got PH Custom Lures, and they make a lot of awesome glide baits now, and they really have kind of cut their teeth on the balsa baits and all that. So they have some really cool stuff. And if y'all want to save a little bit of money, you can use Brooks 20 at checkout at PH Custom Lures and get a lot of those really cool stuff.
There you go, Brooks 20 at PH Custom Lures.
Yes, sir.
There you go. See, hey, listen, we're all about teaching you guys some stuff and saving you money. So I like that. Let's see. Let's get Greg Everett. Anybody throw a jerk bait this time of year?
I definitely do.
What do you target with the jerk bait? What kind of like points, structure? I mean, what are you looking for?
Brush pile, suspended fish, fish on bait, anything kind of that nature. Anywhere those fish are kind of up in the water column. Yeah. The jerk bait's a lot harder than it used to be for some reason. It seems like nowadays, like on lakes like Lanier, Hartwell, it's really hard to get those fish to actually commit to it. So it takes kind of one of those overcast and windy days to make a special jerkbait day for me.
So have you thrown the creds yet?
I have a handful of them.
What do you think about it?
I'm not gonna probably throw it that much.
Okay, so just you ain't gonna knock the bait. It just is not for your type of fish.
It doesn't suit me, and personally, I don't see it. It has a cool buy-in and getting the bait to come back at the fish, but through all these other techniques, whenever that bait goes past them in a shad profile below them, they completely lose interest in it.
There you go. So you think it's more marketing than it is anything?
Yeah, I believe a lot.
Be honest with you.
I believe a lot of baits are nowadays, and I'm not to say that there isn't a perfect lake and say a brush pile that has largemouth in it that those fish have never seen, something like that. They wouldn't go crazy over it, but consistently my fishing, it's not going to be one I'm going to pick up too often.
You know, when Driscoll was on, he said that, yeah, you can catch fish on it, but he could catch those same fish on a regular jerkbait.
Right, but I do think there's some cool applications of it. It almost looks like a bigger riser bait to me. Yeah. So I think you could do some burning on the top of the water and let it kind of shimmy back if one misses it or something. So I think there's some kind of maybe unorthodox ways of fishing it that would work. But as far as letting it do that, it's not going to be in my arsenal.
You probably just gave somebody some ideas right there.
Yeah, Harold, for sure.
Everybody going to be out there burning the hell out of the creds next year.
They're going to be smoking
that guy said that on Fish North Georgia.
Smoking that thing on the surface.
Waldperk. So we throw half-ounce jigs over here on Weiss.
Oh, so he's from Weiss.
He's from Weiss.
Well, they're in that skinny
Bama
water.
Boy. So, yeah, well, half-ounce I get. But it's funny. So, again, take Lake Weiss. Lake Weiss is a little shallower than Lanier. A little dirtier water, wouldn't you say, Tim?
Absolutely. It is a swamp is what it is.
It is a swamp. So, you got that bigger bait. I get that. When you said you throw a bigger one on Lanier, it's kind of like, see, all you guys that come on, you give me these things, and what's going to happen is tomorrow I'm going to be sitting here, and I'm going to be thinking, like, what is he doing with that half-ounce jig? So I might just have to go out fishing with you to find out. During the staging, should I go find cleaner, cooler water or dirty, warm water?
Okay.
During staging.
So this this question is honestly a double-edged sword in a couple of reasons, because you can be effective in doing both. For me, I'm gonna go the clear water and know they can see my bait and presentation, and that's my confidence.
You're more presentation and reaction,
right? Because if I feel like these fish are there, I can find a bait on my deck or make an adjustment to get them to eat at some point throughout the day.
Yeah,
for me. But in the dirty, warming water, you can have some incredible days. Those fish pulling up on a crankbait, spinnerbait, chatterbait, and I know a lot of guys doing that right now on Lanier in the muddy water. That's been really effective in doing both. But for me, I'm a clean water guy, but it's also fun sometimes to put that crankbait, turn the grass off, and just kind of fish where they should be.
Right. You know what? You know what's pretty cool about these young kids now? Like he's talking like a seasoned veteran, which you are. I mean, you've been fishing tournaments since 10, but he's got these answers that are like mature, far more mature than you and I over here. But I mean, the answers like that makes a lot of sense if you listen to him. Like he's a clean water guy. That's what I like. I feel like I can figure those fish out. You know, where you and I, maybe me, we'd probably.
I wouldn't go to clear. I'd go to dirty water.
You're a dirty water, but you come from down south a little bit. You're from Florida, so that's kind of what you grew up with,
right?
Tim, you're over there. You're a flatlander from over, Rome area.
Coosa Swamp.
Weiss,
where you literally can't get there from here on some spots.
That's right. And you basically cut your teeth on clear water. So I love the different perspectives. Enjoyed the show. Smart kid, great information. Keep your head down. Keep grinding. So that's Southern Dog Man. Oh, that's Blake right there. So guys, Blake's got a YouTube channel too called Southern Dog Man where he does squirrels hunting and stuff. Check him out. Scratch fishing right above it. I missed that. What role does the underspin and jerkbait play in his arsenal? You kind of covered the jerkbait a little bit. Do you throw underspins? And I'm gonna preface this by saying I've noticed a lot of guys love underspins, but a lot of guys are tending to go away from underspins to the more traditional ball head. So what are you?
I threw underspin a lot as a kid when it was kind of just the new thing, and I threw it like a spinnerbait for a while. I didn't know you're supposed to crawl it in ditches and keep contact with the bottom. And it's definitely a bait I still love to throw and catch a lot of fish on, but I kind of like that ball head, like you said, and just that complete natural presentation. But the underspin can be really effective when there is like a abundance of bait. It kind of separates yours with that blade. So there's a time and place for both, but 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna pick up just that plain swim bait head.
Okay, as a forward-facing sonar guy, is there a type of ball head jig? Because you got the tungstens now, and you got the leads, and you got all that. There's stuff you can put on your baits now that they say makes it look better on forward-facing sonar. Do you utilize any of that? Do you like a tungsten over a lead?
I've played with both for a little bit, but honestly, we kind of touched on it earlier. If you get your graphs set up by Trent and you have clean power to everything, that's not going to matter what you throw. You'll see your bait, but definitely having your graphs set up with dedicated clean power is something that is beyond anything that bait pop or something or a tungsten head would do, in my opinion.
Yeah. So and another thing too about Trent and the guys over at Sonar Pros, yes, you can take your boat, but if you are a hands-on kind of do-it-yourself kind of guy, they sell the dedicated cabling system or whatever that has, and he does keep it separate. Like he likes to put the graphs, keep it all so you don't get interference. Right. It's a, I don't know what he calls it, if he calls it the cable system or whatever.
The dedicated wiring harness.
Wiring harness. That's the word I was trying to figure out. Yeah, I couldn't. Wiring harness. But yeah, that does make a difference. And a lot of people don't realize that if you're not getting enough juice to your graphs, you may think what you're seeing is good until you get it on a system set up right. And it's a whole different ball game.
Definitely.
A whole different ball game.
What kind of harness do you run?
I believe it's a 10 gauge wire that he put in. He did everything for me.
Yeah, he did it all.
Did he take you to the lake afterwards?
No, he didn't. But I didn't request that. I knew.
Did they take the boat to the lake and test it?
Yes, sir. They do.
I think he does that before he gives the boat back to you.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, I think if you take it, and he can correct me.
Yeah, we personally didn't go out together, but I knew my units weren't getting the voltages and things I need. And by the end of the day, you'd see it drop off and lose your picture and all that. So just by me getting the boat back and putting it in the water, it was night and day difference.
If I'm not mistaken, because he was on the show, I want to say that once they get it set up, because he's up in Dawsonville, so you can go to Thompson Creek really quick from his shop. It's a 10-minute drive. I think he might actually put your boat in there.
I believe he does. He posts a lot of pictures with the clients' boats in the water and making sure everything's perfectly right, which I'm sure he did with mine. So
he probably did, but yeah, if you want it done right, definitely Trent's the guy. But he's really big on that, dedicated power. Now, do you use a lithium or anything?
I do. I have a separate lithium battery for just my 4 units, and then I keep all my aerators and bilge lights on my cranking battery, and it's so critical to have a separate battery for all your units and just only run your units off one battery.
One battery.
It's a little bit of an upfront cost, but over the past few years, knowing that, hey, I mean, if I don't turn these graphs on standby and I'm running them hard all day, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
And still being able to crank your motor and run live wells all day is something cool. And he actually rigged my boat to where I have a Perco switch in between my AGM and my lithium. So if one of them were to die, say the lithium, I can switch it over to the AGM and run my graphs off that. So it's kind of a double redundancy thing. That's been pretty cool.
He sets it up right. I went into his shop and I saw all his different wiring harnesses and talking to people. And he actually had a guy in there that had driven up from Florida all the way to Dawsonville, Georgia, just to get his boat rigged by Trent. So again, Sonar Pros giving you a lot of love tonight, but it's important, especially if you got that forward facing.
Definitely.
The voltage is of utmost importance. Let's see. Frank Arnold, fishing Norman. Appreciate y'all sharing experience. I get spots raising out of brush only to never eat my crankbait and jerkbait. What should I resort to? So he's got spots in the brush that will not hit the crankbait or jerkbait.
So I've been to Norman twice in the past 2 years fishing college tournaments, and it's a really cool spotted bass fishery. But if you are targeting brush per se, I would definitely kind of switch over to a Demiki rig style bait or a Kitech or something, and really just trying to keep that bait above them rather than maybe a crankbait that just kind of swims past them, kind of give them time to come up and analyze it and decide if they're going to eat it.
Okay, so there you go. Appreciate you asking that question. Brad Silvers wants to know, what ounce head do you throw in your Kitech?
I throw a 1/4 ounce and a 3/8.
And what would dictate the quarter and what would dictate the 3/8?
If they're biting really good and the fish are set up a little bit deeper, that 3/8 is way better. It gets right to them. But if the 1/4 ounce is kind of a slicker day and you're really trying to keep that bait in a specific area of the water, it's kind of your all around. You can't go wrong with a 1/4. I typically don't like to go to the 3/16. It's just a little bit harder to throw. It takes a lot longer to get down there.
Yeah.
So that 1/4 is a happy medium, but if those fish are just plain flat and simple set up deeper, that 3/8 ounce is way more efficient for sure.
Do you have a specific brand you like? Because you say Kitech or Demiki and all that, but do you have a specific brand of swim baits you like more?
Definitely the Kitech swim.
You like the Kitechs?
Yes, sir.
Like the Fat Impact?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Fat Impact.
Okay, that's what most people throw. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. What's the next question? Limo 58. I love the names you guys come up with.
I'm telling you.
Appreciate you joining us tonight, Limo. Ever throw a plastic crawl instead of a worm in spring on your shaky head?
On largemouth lakes, I do, but for spotted bass, I typically don't.
Right.
If I was going to throw a crawl related thing, it'd probably be a jig.
Yeah.
Just kind of, I'd throw a finessier jig that kind of made that crawl stick out or something.
If Stephen Bardet was here, he'd say the Picasso Little Spotty if he's still on. I know exactly.
Absolutely.
Picasso Little Spotty. I think he's got it tattooed on his buttocks. Let's see.
Let's go back up a little bit.
Go back up. Did I miss a couple?
Well, they're just chatting in here.
They are chatting. Oh, Ron Pendergrass, of course, he goes, do you ever throw a fluke? And you, of course, you do.
Absolutely.
And you said, Ron, I believe you said starting basically about May-ish, kind of, so to speak.
Late April.
Late April, May, shad spawn, herring spawn coming in. That's when you really start throwing that.
It can be a good largemouth bait as well. It's similar to the mag draft and horny toad, just finding them and stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I've got to say, Stephen Guthrie, mag draft or glide bait during the spawn? Spencer Guthrie. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Appreciate you joining us tonight.
So I've done a little bit of dabbling into the glide baits just because I'm seeing it nowadays as actually a tournament bait that people are consistently catching them on. But I'm not too experienced with all that, and definitely something I'm working on this spawn for sure and my own fishing. But if I had to pick one right now, it'd be a mag draft for sure.
Be a mag draft. Okay, there you go. Good question. I think I got all those right there, so we can go back down. You're doing some very good answers tonight.
Yes,
I appreciate that. You're dropping. Wyatt Richards. Pull up Greg Everett real quick. Can we get a show focused on electric only lakes sometimes? I am in the works with putting one of those together. And I'm kind of just to kind of give you an idea of where we're thinking about going with the live well. Thursday nights is my bass crowd, 100%. If I try to put anything that's out of the ordinary on Thursday nights, the numbers are a little bit down. They expect us to talk bass, big lakes, and all that. So we're delving with the idea of doing another live well on Tuesday nights. And that will be more for the electric only world, the trout world, striper world, all those things that we can't quite concentrate on. But yes, definitely, because of all the lakes around here, those are the ones I know the best. So it is coming. Wyatt Richards. Oh, Wyatt, Mr. Pickens County himself. He's a hammer too. You're going to be seeing him fishing some big stuff. How do you go about finding areas and locating fish and timber?
It's definitely all about the bait, really bait related, and the timber. This Lanier has an abundance of timber everywhere. And it's really just a matter of finding the bait in there and kind of slowing down and seeing if you can see a couple of those fish over the timber. And a lot of times I'll kind of give the other ones away that are actually kind of tucked down in there.
Yeah, Lanier's just a little bit different the way the timber's cut in there. Do you fish any other lake like that across the United States that might be similar to the way Lanier is set up?
No, sir. The timber out here is there's not many lakes that have that much timber in it. And even on Hartwell, if you do have timber, there's probably fish in it because there's not as much as, say, Lanier.
So if you can find the timber in Hartwell, that's probably going to be a concentration.
Yeah, isolated timber at Hartwell's really good.
Okay, I got you. River Rat. We're throwing them out tonight right here. When throwing a crankbait, do you constantly reel or pause during your retrieve?
So the stop and go thing is something that's worked for a lot of years, but primarily I'm a consistent reeling. But with live scope, I'll throw you all a little nugget. If you do see one, following it on live scope, pausing it can get you a few extra bites.
Just see if that little stop will
but
the trigger.
It's hard to throw a crankbait and keep live scope on the whole time. But if you happen to see
I bet.
If you happen to see it coming to the boat and you see one behind it, pausing it can get you an extra bite or two.
Make them run into it.
Okay. Your dad has another question. Would you consider Spencer Guthrie the greatest high school captain of all time?
Absolutely. We had a blast doing it. I couldn't have had anyone else.
He had a long list of questions I should ask you.
No, I'm sure.
Once you guys learn me, like, I'll go, yeah, I got you, and then I'll forget them. So I appreciate that. Alan Pruitt, this is a good question. How do you determine the size of the fish when seeing them on forward-facing sonar?
This is actually a really good question and something a lot of people struggle with. The biggest thing you can do is to take your unit off of the auto depth and learn the picture at certain depths. So if I typically run mine at 40 or 45 a lot, and if I do step out in the deeper water, I'll adjust it to 50, 60, 70 per se, whatever I'm fishing. But if you learn what fish look like on a set screen without it constantly adjusting, you'll be able to be like, okay, that's 2 to 3 pound fish, or you'll see a little bit bigger mark and you'll be like, okay, that's a bigger fish for sure.
Okay, so you take it off the auto.
Yep. That's my perception of that.
Okay, so we had Bill Payne on last week, and he was talking about having to, certain situations adjust your gain, do stuff. But he did say he marks his. He doesn't use the auto feature. He goes like 40 feet, and if he goes shallower, 20 feet will be the cheapest, or not cheapest, the shallowest he'll go. But he said that same thing, not on the auto. But you can tell definitely
for size of fish.
For size of fish,
having a consistent depth is going to be your biggest thing to just start the learning process of, okay, these are what X size fish looks like.
Okay, here's a question for me. I was watching some of the elites today, and guys were having their forward-facing sonar, and they would be looking at a stump. And I even heard guys say today, that might be turtles. That might be, anything. And I heard the word turtle. I guess Toledo is where they at.
Toledo Bend.
Toledo Bend must have a ton of turtles.
Yeah,
they must have, because, did y'all, that does it? Dude, it was like every one of them were like turtles. That could be turtles. I'm like, on forward-facing sonar. But is there a way for somebody, and these are elite anglers, and they're still having trouble identifying fish. I get it if it's a catfish or something like that. But can you look on your forward-facing sonar and say, that's probably crappie. That's probably bass. Are there ways to kind of figure that out?
Honestly, back here at home at Lanier and Hartwell, Altoona, if you're looking at a fish on forward-facing sonar, it's either a bass or a striper for the majority of the time. You can tell crappie, they're tightly packed together. Striper are just abnormally large usually, and you can often see their tail moving. That's how I kind of know they're striper. But it's been a really big learning curve to me and a lot of these other live scope guys, as they've grown up in Texas and other lakes where there's a bunch of trash fish, I call it. And like we went up to Cherokee last year, for example, there's drum, striper, hybrid. I mean, every fish imaginable they're all moving, and you don't know what's a bass. And for me, back home, I'm like, all right, everything's bass, so it's easy. But there's a whole different side of things. So learning what bass are in large populations of fish, and that's something I've honestly struggled with in the past couple of years traveling, is looking at my unit and being able to tell what is a bass. But the one piece of information I could probably give is bass are 9 times out of 10 always going to be moving. So if you see a lot of stationary fish, it's probably not a bass. A bass will typically be moving in some fashion year round.
That's interesting. DA, did your Triton boat, especially given its large size, help you navigate Lanier in the wind?
Absolutely. Yep. That's Dylan again, my roommate. But I have another joke. I have the biggest boat on the team is that larger style Triton, but that's the only reason I still have it is because just that hole is special to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you though, especially when the wind comes out, I can't remember if it's like a northeast or whatever, but on Lake Lanier, when it comes down that chute,
it's terrible.
Dude, it is the roughest thing. I mean, I've been on salt water and it not be as bad. But I remember the Spro.
There'll be 2-foot rollers out there sometimes.
Dude, seriously, the Spro had one of their tournaments 2 years ago, and that wind laid up just right. Basically, it starts at Laurel Park and just shoots down that chute. And the south end's dangerous.
It is
when it's like that. It's like watching them guys up on the Great Lakes when when they're doing that, and then you see them, and then the wave goes down. You don't see them. I don't know how those guys fish in that. Have you done any of that?
I have. I went to Saginaw Bay. I believe it's on Lake Huron 2 years ago, and that was one of the scariest experiences of my life, is leaving that bay and looking right and left and nothing but true 4 and 5 foot waves. And
it's crazy.
And it's scary and exhilarating all at the same time, but it's nothing like down here. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're young though. It would be exhilarating. For me, it'd be time to go home and drink some coffee on the couch. Any big bass, and I'm gonna hope I get this right. Balenci. I hope I pronounced that right. If not, please, I apologize. Are there any 10-pound largies left in Lanier? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're there. Probably, Alatoona is going to show you some 10-pound largies here before long. I know it's going to happen.
It's coming.
It's coming. Every year, Alatoona seems to crank out a big largemouth or two. But, yeah, there are big largemouths still. They're there. There's too much bait in Lanier and all for them not to be there. Now, whether you can catch them or not, that's a whole different thing. Blake Acker, what's the best tip to make fish commit on a Damiki on live scope?
Keep it above them. Keep
it above them. They're looking up. You think that's a mistake a lot of guys make? They go down below them?
Absolutely.
There you go. Simple enough. Smallmouth running packs. Largemouth are slower and more open packs. Largemouth moves slower, and smallies run horizontal. Largemouth more vertical. So I assume he's talking about how the fish are acting on live scope. Right there. So, damn, did we actually catch up with all the questions right there?
I'm going to scroll back up. We may have missed something.
Yeah. Oh, right
Some
there.
of them we've covered.
Jay Kenyon. Go down right there. On your electronics, are you running 12 or 16 volt?
So I actually have a 12 volt, but that is just because everything's on that one battery. And I don't feel like the 16 volt gives you that much a better picture once you do have that clear power we talked about. But the 16 volt is an awesome battery, and I probably will get it in my boat in the next couple of years. Just
I know a lot of guys. Yeah, a lot of companies. Powerhouse is one of them. They've come out with a 16 volt that's a dedicated for the electronics.
Absolutely.
So again, let's see if I missed any more right there. Oh, Spencer Guthrie, I missed that question. 2 up right there. Brooks, what is your personal best, and what did you catch it on?
So it was actually a 6-pound spot this past December. And I almost threw it back without weighing it. And I started looking at it. I was like, that might be a little bit bigger than 5. But I caught on a shaky head as well. So it does catch pretty big fish.
See, that's what I like. So let me tell you the mistake I made. And it's not the informants guy, but we have electric tournaments out of Baldridge. Mm-hmm. Got one coming up, not this Saturday, but next Saturday. I've consistently done pretty good in them. And all I ever threw was a shaky head. And this year I heard everybody was like, they were putting up some monster weights on crankbaits and jigs. And I went out there and tried to fish something. I'm more comfortable with a shaky head than a jig. And I bombed. So I know next week I'm going to throw a shaky head. But that's a perception that with shaky heads, that you can't catch the big fish. I think fish per fish with a jig might be more weight, but I think you catch more on a shaky head and therefore increase your opportunity for that right there. So, I guess you can scroll on back down and see if we missed any before we start ending this thing up right there. So I will tell you this. I say Cody Dean. Daniel Thurman caught an 8 on Allatoona last week, and he did. He absolutely did, and that helped him propel himself.
That tournament I fished a couple of weekends ago, there was I think a 9 1/4, 9 1/2 came.
Yeah,
and they got second place.
Second place. I will tell you this. First. I'm gonna drop my pen. I'll tell you this. I'll be honest. I saw it's a 2-day tournament on Allatoona. It was a Noe tournament. I saw day one. Barday was in second place by about 4 pounds, but the guys ahead of him had that 8-pound kicker. And I thought to myself, well, Barday's got a good chance the following day because the odds of them catching another kicker like that, unlike that, but it didn't happen for him. So let's see, what's his deepest catch on live scope?
I've caught some out of 70, 75 foot.
Really? Where was that at?
Here.
Out of Lanier, 70 foot on Lanier.
You throw a spinnerbait much?
I do, yes, sir. I've kind of gotten away with it in the past couple of years, but now everyone's throwing the chatterbait. Everyone's throwing chatterbait only. So I've kind of put it back.
Gone back into the spinnerbait.
That's something y'all have definitely heard by talking to people, and it's definitely true that those fish get beat to heck with a chatterbait. So
yeah, I agree with. Pull up Alan's question. We still got a few more coming in right here. When you see fish on the forward-facing screen, they are swimming to the right or the left. How do you determine which direction they're actually going in the water?
That is the hardest thing to do with live scope, and probably something that's taken me the most time to learn. But now it's almost like second nature to me when I see one swimming. But the biggest thing I can tell you is to keep your foot, like after you make the cast, keep your foot on live scope and almost track that fish, because you don't know which way it's really going in that moment. But over time, you'll see, like,
you start telling.
You start leading them, and you're like, if you see one swimming at 50, you throw at 70. It's kind of that.
So what you do is you see it. And if you pan right and he's gone, pan back left.
And it may take 3, 5, 10 casts to get that bait in front of that fish, and that's not uncommon. I mean, I can tell you multiple fish I've caught over the past couple of months where I've made 5 to 10 casts until my bait actually reached them in front of them. Yeah,
that's one thing. My cousin, when he got his Garmin, he got his live scope and all that. He said what he realized more than anything is that people got this perception of a bass just sitting on a point or just sitting. Don't get me wrong, there's times when but for the most part, they're moving constantly.
Definitely.
Always moving like that. Let's see. What weight, shaky head, drop shot weight for 30-plus feet deep?
Still the 3/16.
3/16, yeah.
If it's like crazy deep, and I maybe would go to a quarter, but it's unlikely.
Okay. Brad Silvers. Right there. So on Lanier, what do the spots do in high sun? They deeper or shallower? Good question.
They actually do a little bit of both. You'll have a set group of them that push really shallow and set up on some of those points and just areas. I don't know if they're sunning themselves. I think they use it to feed almost. But there's a lot of fish that go extremely deep in that timber and hug tight to it on those sunny days as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize fish have personalities. Some fish, I mean, they do, but some like to stay shallow.
Definitely.
There'll always be fish shallow year round. They'll never go deep. And then there's some that will tend to stay out in the deep the entire time. So let's see. With the high winds this weekend, would you stay offshore or focus on the banks on a shallow lake?
Are we talking about Lanier or no? We're talking about anywhere.
Yeah, I would say anywhere.
I would definitely focus shallower just to maximize my efficiency with making the cast and kind of focusing on the presentation, especially if it was a lake that I'm not comfortable on. Definitely shallow, because I wouldn't be just fishing offshore for no reason. It can be done in the wind, but it's a lot trickier, and it can cause a lot of headaches, like me this past weekend for sure.
Yeah, no, okay, that's good. How far forward do you have your scope set on?
That'll be a guide trip thing.
Guide trip thing. Just give me a longer than average, shorter than average.
It's more than 50 foot and probably further than most guys.
Okay, all right, there you go. Fair enough. Again, guys, book a trip with him. He will take you out and show them. Got a couple more minutes for a couple questions. Let's say top 3 summertime baits on Lanier.
Fluke, some type of topwater bait, and then a jointed swim bait like a Sibyl or something. That's honestly about all I have on my deck from May until August.
Okay. All right, guys. So, hey, listen, we've been going at it for about 2 hours now. I think if you guys, I know a lot of people are going to watch this at a later date. A lot of people go back. let me say this, Brooks. I've had a lot of guests on. You had a lot of questions, specific questions tonight, and you answered them all with very good answers. And I realize there's a few we got to keep them say, I get it. But for the most part, dude, you answered them very well, very to the point. I really honestly feel like somebody watching this show tonight can take what you said and go out and catch fish, which is all we ask. And you did an outstanding job. So I want to say that was really good. And also definitely congratulations on winning the BFL. That's a hell of an accomplishment. And I think I speak for all the guys in here. It's going to be fun watching you from here on out. Especially next year, you're going to be in the Toyota Series, and that's you're going just to see you progress up through that. So, from the guys here at Fish North Georgia, I want to say, best of luck, and dude, keep grinding. You're an impressive young man. I think that absolutely that. So, again, Tim, thanks for running the board. Thanks for Kevin over here not passing out while he's laughing to death.
Had a great time.
You always do. And Brooks, seriously, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Next week, Kevin Underwood, Rick Stuckelberg, they're going to be in here. Kevin's got a big announcement. You're not going to want to miss that. And, again, thank you guys for taking the time to watch. We didn't get to all the questions, but, hey, there's always next time. We'll get him back on eventually.
Book a guide trip with him.
Book a guide trip
Watch his
with
YouTube
him.
channel.
Watch his YouTube channel. Brooks Anderson Fishing. Simple enough. You can't do that. And, again, T__ McGuire. What is it after that? Outdoors like that. So, guys, hey, if you're watching, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We appreciate you. We'll be back next Thursday. And if you're on the water, you've heard it said a couple times, going to be windy this weekend. Be safe first and foremost and have fun out there. We'll see you next week.